Good morning and welcome to the July 15th public hearing and public meeting of the Landmarks Preservation Commission. We are meeting in our hearing room at 253 Broadway. I will note, and you will note, that this is not Sarah Carroll speaking to you, who is away this morning, will be with us later in the late morning, I believe, to take over chairing the hearing. I'll note, just for the record, this is my last hearing, and I've just done a little calculations, maybe my 640th hearing. But we get to welcome this morning Frank Mahan, new commissioner, in his #1 hearing. So out with the old, in with the new. I'd like to now turn the meeting over to Corey Hrala, who will tell us how to zoom in and take us through the first agenda item.
Thank you, Vice Chair Bland. Yes, for those of you who wish to join our hearing remotely at home, please visit our website where you can find login and password links for joining through Zoom. And you can also join or watch the hearing through our YouTube channel if you want to visit YouTube to do that. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with today's Preservation Department.
Let me just do the roll.
Oh, sorry, I'll turn it over to Mark Silverman to do roll call.
Chair Carroll, Vice Chair Bland,
Here.
Commissioner Chen,
Yeah.
Commissioner Chu, Commissioner Ginsburg,
Here.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Ikwembe,
Here.
Commissioner Jefferson, Commissioner Mahan,
Here.
Commissioner Master,
Here.
Commissioner Wilder.
Here.
All right, we'll start today's Preservation Department agenda with public hearing item #1, LPC 25-06739, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Queens, Block 78, Lot 24, 21-49 45th Avenue in the Hunters Point Historic District. This is an Italianate-style row house designed by Spencer B. Root and John P. Rust and built in the 1870s, and the application is to construct a rear yard addition.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lin Chu, representing owner and applicant for today's presentation. We are proposing one-story rear addition to the building at 2149 45th Avenue, located in Hunters Point Historic District. Queens, Borough of the Queens. In our presentation, slide 1 showing history and the current facade, building facade of subject property, and bottom image showing the most building facade in the historic district. Slide 2, the top map showing the Hunters Point Historic District area in light blue, and the dark blue is subject property location. The bottom image is showing the current top view of the portion of historic area and our subject property location with purple dash line. Slide 3 shows full black building footprint. Purple dash line indicated a portion of historic area, and our subject building indicated with angle hinged line, and purple dash line also shows our proposed one-story addition in the rear. Slide 4 shows current existing rear extension with two adjacent buildings having one-story extension. This slide 5, shows proposed one-story extension indicated with dash purple line. This diagram shows in the middle, it's our subject property. And in here shows one-story rear extension, which have same depth, 19.8 feet, same as adjacent building 2147 45th Avenue, approved by DOB and LPC in 2010. Now we are proposing roof terrace enclosed by see-through hand railing, which match adjacent building 2151 without stairs going down to the backyard. So doing so, where the see-through hand railing will give us less shadow, and we're not creating a new depth. This photo showing current rear facade of subject building with adjacent building. The left one you see here, it's proposed the railing. We're proposing railing as this. And the middle image is showing right-hand adjacent building 2147. This slide A shows existing section. This slide 9 shows proposed one-story addition at the rear with see-through hand railing without any stairs. This slide 10 shows existing and the proposed floor plan. One story. So this one shows one-story roof terrace, existing and proposed. Thank you all.
Any questions, commissioners? No questions. We'll go to testimony. Michelle Craran will lead us through the testimony. And anyone in the room, first of all, would like to testify? No, seeing no one. Now go to Michelle. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone on Zoom who would like to testify, please use the raise hand function and I'll call on you. One last time, anyone who'd like to speak, please use the raise hand function. Okay, it looks like we don't have anyone who would like to testify on this item, and I'll note that Queens Community Board 2 recommends approval.
Okay, thank you. I guess I could go back and ask the applicant if she'd like to say anything further. There's been no testimony, so there's nothing particular to respond to, but you're invited to speak if you'd like to. Nothing. Okay, thank you. Okay, commissioners, unless there are any further questions, I'll ask to close the hearing. Commissioner Goldblum, would you make a motion?
So moved.
Commissioner Eduardo, second?
Second.
Okay, the hearing is now closed. All in favor of closing the hearing? Any opposed? Hearing is now closed. Okay. Okay, this is a pretty simple, straightforward application, I think, that we've seen many times before. Commissioner Ginsburg, would you like to start the?
Yeah, this is straightforward, appropriate. It's one story. It's not extending farther into the donut than the adjacent building, and it's fine.
Yeah. Commissioner Chen?
In agreement.
Keep going around the room.
In agreement.
Commissioner McMahon, Mahan?
In agreement.
Great. I think, is anybody in disagreement? Okay, then I think we're all in agreement. So Mark Ginsburg will read the testimony.
With regards to LPC 25-06739, 2149 45th Avenue, Hunters Point Historic District. An Italianate-style row house designed by Spencer B. Root and John P. Rust and built in the 1870s. Application is to construct a rear yard addition. I note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Hunters Point Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the proposed work will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features, that the work will not be visible from public thoroughfares, that other rear yard additions with smaller height and depth exist within the block, and that the proposed one-story rear yard addition will be modest in scale and will not overwhelm the building, adjacent buildings, or the block's central green space. That the design and materiality of the rear yard addition, featuring white finished stucco cladding, white finished windows and doors in punched openings, and black finished metal railing, will harmonize with the material and fenestration patterns of the rear facade of the building, and that the proposed work will not detract from the special architectural and historic character of the Hunters Point Historic District.
Commissioner Chen, would you make a second?
Second.
Mark, would you call for the vote?
Vice Chair Bland,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Ikwembe,
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Aye.
Commissioner Mahan,
Aye.
Commissioner Master,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilder.
Aye.
9 in favor, none opposed. The motion passes.
Okay, that item is approved. We'll move to the next item, public hearing item number 2, LPC 25-12287, an application for a binding report in the Borough of Brooklyn, Block 243, Lot 47, 128 Pierrepont Street, the Long Island Historical Society Building, which is an interior landmark, also in the Brooklyn Heights Historic District. This is a Queen Anne style historical society building with Italian Renaissance style details designed by George B. Post and built in 1878 to 81. And the application is to install signage.
Hello, good morning. The Center for Brooklyn History, which is part of the Brooklyn Public Library system, would like to replace their existing exterior signs seen here on the top of the railing along the fence with a well-considered sign program that both promotes their offerings but also helps people find the right doors and is designed to fit within the architecture and marries with the historic nature of the neighborhood.
Sir, before you continue, could you just state your name for the record, please?
Oh, sorry. My name is Chris King. I'm senior principal at LVCK, a Buyer Binder Bell studio. So next, the first step is to remove the railing so that the exhibit display is gone from the top of the fence and the entry doors are full in view, providing an unobstructed view to the facade. This is a challenging entrance to solve as there are 4 doors to choose from. There's only one functioning entrance, which is accessible via ramps to either side at the far ends of the sunken entry plaza. The main entry door seen here at center left is currently demarked by a flagpole. The Brooklyn Public Library has a defined signage system approved by both LPC and PDC for rollout of signage across all of its 60+ branches. And we designed this system to fit within many building types from the Carnegie style to pillboxes of mid-century. And it's been deployed over more than 3/4 of them to date. It's a kit of parts that has been deployed as many or as few as needed, depending on the building type. And these signs ensure people know where the entrances are. They can learn about upcoming events and they can figure out the hours of operation without having to look through and peer through a fence. They also build awareness of BPL's presence across the borough. So we would be just executing 3 of those sign types for this building to handle the bulk of the signage work. These are only being adjusted in terms of their materiality. So we will be changing to a bronze finish versus black or silver metallic. Our installation details suggest and require that there are mortar joints used for mechanical fastening, and there are no glues or adhesives used on the facade itself, and that all penetrations are few in number and reversible. The last component that is new is the freestanding exhibit display to replace the long-running rail that was removed. This sign addresses the offerings of the center more completely, as CBH is a museum, it's a library, it's an education center, it's so many things that they want to get people on the street to approach this building and learn more and enter. So from the approach of the building, the sign acts as a caption for the building, and CBH's mission, which it's founded in 1863, it preserves and encourages the study of Brooklyn's more than 400-year history. And its orientation to the plaza interior draws visitors in to provide more detailed information about exhibits and programs. See here that the scale is small compared to the building. This center's Romanesque Revival building is a national heritage. It's a landmark and part of the city's Brooklyn Heights Historic District. And the signs need not be bold, big, or loud. The building itself is an icon and stands on its own. A few of the details about this exhibit display is that it has the changing inserts for paper inserts that are issued maybe bi-weekly and easy to change out in non-illuminated cases. There's no lighting to this sign whatsoever. And a large format display for sort of every 6 months, exhibits may rotate, and this could be changed out as well. When there isn't an ongoing exhibit, there is a large textural graphic, which is on one side and on the back, as I mentioned, a caption for the building and the mission itself. This is a detail of how that graphic would look in a little bit more close up. It's from the CBH Archives, Historic Map of Brooklyn. So far, we have completed 2 rounds of shops with BPL's trusted vendor that has been executing all the other system signage. And we expect to have 1 more final shop review for addressing minor details. Upon the first site review conducted, we learned that there are no footings required. They can attach directly to the cement bed, no obstruction to pavers, and no utility lines below ground at this location. The materiality that we are looking at, as I said, was bronze. We're also looking for the permanent graphics such as the map and the text on the back to be etched in laser, so it actually reveals a lighter bronze and becomes integral with the material and ages naturally with the sign itself. No peeling, fading. Our next step is to go on site with full-scale mock-ups and, as I said, resolve final details in the drawing.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much. Any questions? Okay, great. Testimony. Is there anybody in the room who would like to speak to this project? Noting that there doesn't appear to be, I hand it over to Dell to see if there's anybody online.
Thank you. Anyone on Zoom who would like to testify, please use the raise hand function. I'll promote you to panelist. The first person we have is Christina Conroy. I have promoted you to panelist. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Christina Conroy for the Victorian Society in New York. Now, founded in New York City in 1966, the Victorian Society in America is dedicated to fostering the appreciation and preservation of our 19th and early 20th century heritage. The New York chapter promotes preservation of our historic districts, individual and scenic landmarks, interiors, and civic art. Now, although the Victorian Society has great appreciation for the mission of the Long Island Historical Society and the Center for Brooklyn History, we believe that this proposal will result in sign overload. The many signs already here include a large flagpole and banner on both the Pierrepont and Clinton Street facades. There are 2 bronze plaques attached to the brick pier at the corner of Clinton and Pierrepont. And you can see that the applicant has found a way to use their areaway fence for additional signage. We couldn't find any permits for this sign. We also feel that the location of the existing and proposed signs are too random. This is a very formal building. So signs scattered like raisins on a cookie do not respect the historic character. We do not believe it is appropriate to cover the historic glass transom of the central doors with a sign. We also think that any sign affixed to the brick facade will damage it. The joints are too narrow to accept anchors without damage. The signs on the areaway fence are very distracting and inappropriate to the fence, the building, and the district. Even excluding the fence signs, if this proposal is implemented, there will be 3 signs with the name of the institution within a few feet of each other, and this is unnecessary. Any signs approved for this building should respect its formal character and should be kept to an absolute minimum. The building advertises itself. The branch library sign program presented as a justification for this proposal is not relevant to it. And in any case, we think that the branch library signs consisting of a panoply of banners, fixed signs, and freestanding signs are also excessive, especially when it's installed on the historic branches. Now, finally, Commissioners, we must note that when beloved institutions appear at public hearing, it often seems to become a referendum focused on the good the institution does, rather than the appropriateness of the proposed change. We hope that today the focus will remain on the proposed signage. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we have Kaylee Johnson. I've promoted you to panelist. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Kaylee Johnson with the Historic Districts Council. HDC's Public Review Committee found the proposed signage to be subtle, modest, and appropriate. We are concerned, however, with the amount of signage and whether it is necessary or simply repeating similar information. We are unclear about whether the large banner is existing or proposed. Either way, we find the banner to be inappropriate as this is an institutional and not a commercial building. We also wonder if the white signage on the areaway railing would be removed with the addition of the proposed signage. Lastly, we note that the brickwork on this building is exceptional, and we are worried about how the applicant plans to protect the brickwork in the installation of the signage. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. If anyone else would like to testify, please use the raise hand function. Seeing no additional raised hands, I'll note that Brooklyn CB2 recommends approval and the Brooklyn Heights Association also recommends approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have the opportunity, if you like, to respond to those questions. Specifically, I'd suggest that you address the comments about the brick joints and the proliferation or number of signs.
Yes.
Also, we have a question from the commissioners, but why don't you go first?
Okay. As far as the brick joints, we measured those. They are within our pin mounted dimensions, which is 1/8 of an inch. We can certainly fit within the mortar joints. We're aligning the sign to the top edge of the first mortar joint, and then the last pins go in once the sign's in place to measure where those extra joints will be, so they're not set until the sign is set. So that ensures that all mortar joints are used and you don't randomly end up with holes that weren't aligned. Secondly, in terms of the proliferation of signs, we think 3 signs is hardly a lot. The existing sign that is the banner is grandfathered in. We're not addressing that. We're not putting new signage there that's already there. And it doesn't address the accessibility needs and entry identification that the other signs do. We need to have an address on the building. We need to have the primary door identified, and we need accessible signage at the doors. And these are all very basic signs that every public institution deserves. Lastly, the historic signs that are already in place, we are not addressing those either. And those are what they are, as historic placards. They do not address wayfinding or signage needs whatsoever. And they're very quiet on the corner of buildings, and all historic buildings have those. Those are expected. Anything else?
Yes, question from Commissioner Jefferson.
Sorry, the long sign as well, that is being removed. That is not going to be in play. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you.
There are no
The sign
signs on the fence.
unveiling is
Everything
going
is
to be
within the
removed, correct?
boundaries. Sorry.
Great. Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, so let's close the hearing. Commissioner Ginsburg, will you propose to close the hearing?
So moved.
And Commissioner Chen, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed. Let's discuss it. Why don't we start with Commissioner Mack?
I find the proposal well considered and thoughtful, particularly given the removal of the long white signage at the guardrail. Seems to be a substantial improvement for visibility of the landmark. And the new signage I find to be modest and much more harmonious with the landmark itself. Materiality is well considered. I think including the freestanding sign, which is the only element that really, departs, in some way, stands apart and, distinguishes itself as something new. So I can support this.
Thank you. Commissioner Ikembe?
And commissioners, can I ask everyone to speak up and make sure they're leaning into their mics, just so we pick it up, okay?
Great. Throwing the new guys into the deep end on a shallow pool.
I also find the signs to be modest. They're not over blaring. I enjoy the use of the subtle materials themselves. I guess overall, I don't really find an issue or find them to be too awe-striking, especially even on this existing building. So I find it appropriate.
Thank you. Commissioner Master?
Yeah, I generally agree. I think that the cumulative effects of the signs do not overwhelm the building. I think the materiality, the metal and the bronze is appropriate. The freestanding exhibit displays are reversible and don't overwhelm. And I think that the applicant has taken efforts to make sure that the signs are attached to mortar joints and then the cement, so it won't harm the material. So I can also find this appropriate.
Commissioner Jefferson?
Well, it's better than having the signs on the railing. And 3 signs, excessive, 2 might be better, but I can approve this.
Thank you. Commissioner Ginsburg?
I find this appropriate. I also just note, I think it's pretty elegant design. Getting rid of the sign on the rail is a big plus. And I also appreciate wanting to have a consistency between the different public libraries to make branding identification easier. I find this appropriate.
Thank you. Commissioner Chen?
In agreement.
Great. Commissioner Wilder?
I agree with the other commissioners. I like the removal of the previous signs. I think this is a good substitution or replacement for those. And I think they fit the context of the building, so I find it appropriate.
Great. I have nothing to add. So, Commissioner Mann, you want to take a crack at this? Do you know what to do?
I do not.
Okay, great. So, Corey, make sure the commissioner has the right piece of paper to look at, and you know what? Why don't I read this one for you, and we'll go from there. Okay. Regarding 128 Pierrepont Street, The Long Island Historical Society building interior landmark in the Brooklyn Heights Historic District. The application is to install signage. I note that the building's style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Brooklyn Heights Historic District, and I recommend approval, finding that the proposed work will not conceal, damage, or eliminate any significant architectural features, that the signs are solid panels and not LED installations and will not call undue attention to themselves in this largely residential streetscape, that the wall-mounted display cabinet will be attached to the facade through mortar joints. The transom signage will be installed in front of the existing glass transom and affixed to the wood framing, and the freestanding exhibit display will be installed in the areaway paving, all in a manner that will be reversible, that the metal material and bronze metallic finish of the display cabinet is in keeping with materials and finishes of plaques and display cabinets traditionally found on institutional buildings. Ooh. That the modest height above the fence line and the angled orientation of the freestanding exhibit display set away from the facade will preserve views of the building and have a minimal impact on the streetscape, that the size and proportions of the signs are well scaled to this prominent corner building, and that the cumulative effect of the proposed signs will not detract from the special historic and architectural character of the building or the Brooklyn Heights Historic District. Mr. Jefferson, will you second that?
So second.
Yep. Mark, you call the roll?
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum,
Aye.
Commissioner Quembe,
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson,
Aye.
Commissioner Mahan,
Aye.
Commissioner Master,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilder.
Aye.
With 8 in favor and none opposed, the motion passes.
All righty.
Right, that item is
very much.
approved. We'll move to the next item. That's public hearing item number 3, LPC 25-01677. This is an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, Block 301, Lot 7501, 145 Warren Street, aka 385 Henry Street in the Cobble Hill Historic District. This is a building built in 1871, and the application is to construct an areaway with railing.
Good morning. I'm Bruce Cutler from Hustvedt Cutler Architects. Let's see if I can. So this is a proposal for work in a small commercial and residential building on the corner of Warren Street and Henry Street in the Cobble Hill Historic District. These historic photos show the prior conditions, storefronts along Warren Street, and basically a setback on, I'm sorry, storefronts on Henry Street, facing Henry Street on the street line, and on Warren Street, the building is set back in line with the adjacent building, so it's set back about 9 feet from the property line. The proposal here is really focused around what was originally the commercial entrance, which is in this location. As you can see, apologies. The building has historically provided a mix of commercial services to the neighborhood with storefronts primarily facing Henry Street. There have been commercial uses on the second floor, but that was converted to residential use in 2006, creating a single residential unit which uses the existing entrance on Warren Street. The proposed work is on the sidewalk within the property line at that entrance in this area. There's no work proposed to the building itself. As you can see on the existing entrance, there's a variety of planters. There's a refuse management container there. Again, limited to work on the sidewalk. The proposed condition is shown in the bottom is relatively straightforward. It's about creating a fence on a small curb with plantings to separate, create a little separation between the private space and the sidewalk area. The main element here, again, the elements are relatively simple. The main element is the fence, which is a iron and steel fence painted black, similar in character to many other fences in the neighborhood. And, you know, relatively modest. It's relatively simple, but slightly ornamented detailing on a concrete curb finished with a brown stone finish. I'm going to skip through these quickly. This is the existing condition. You can see the property line indicated and the existing entrance. The existing conditions there. The proposed condition shows the relation of the fence and the proposed entrance. And the one subtlety here is that there is a window here which is part of the commercial space. And the location of the fence was placed to the left of the window because placing it to the right would just really not provide enough room for the functions we needed in this forecourt. And as I think is apparent from the elevation, it provides a reasonably graceful relation to the building itself. Here we have details of the fence, relatively straightforward and conventional in character. Slightly ornamented details, which again are typical of many, many other fences in the neighborhood. These do show the opposite corners of the opposite this building. Again, a relatively on Warren Street, 172 Warren Street, a relatively simple fence, a wood palisade fence across the corner on Henry Street, and then on the health center across Henry Street, a relatively simple fence, which is not so visible in the photograph, but it's similar in character to the one on this other one on Warren Street. And many other fences in the neighborhood, all of which have very similar detailing. And of course, there is a wide range of fences there, but for this particular building, this seemed really the most appropriate choice. So in the end, what we're talking about here is not very complicated. Back to, again, you can see the existing condition. We're basically capturing pretty much the same amount of space, all within the property line, to create this relatively modest entryway with the plantings and the curb. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? No questions? We'll go to the room. I don't see anybody in the room unless you would like to speak, testify. No? Then we'll go to Michelle Crarin, who will take us through any virtual testimony.
Thank you. Anyone in Zoom who would like to testify, please use the raise hand function. Great. The first speaker we have is Kaylee Johnson. I've promoted you to panelist. You have 3 minutes to speak, and please state your name for the record.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Kaylee Johnson with the Historic Districts Council. HDC finds the overall intent of this proposal to be appropriate, but we feel strongly that the applicant should be aligning their ironwork with the predominant line of the front yard ironwork along Warren Street, and specifically with 147 Warren directly next door. We understand that achieving that alignment would require a DOT revocable consent approval, so we ask the Commission to ask this applicant to execute that portion of the work. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak, please use the raise hand function. Seeing no additional raised hands, I'll note that Brooklyn CB6 sent us a letter of no objection.
Okay, that's the extent of testimony.
Yes.
Thanks. Would you like to respond in any way to the testimony?
Sure. We did consider this. One of the issues, of course, is that working within the property line is more straightforward than extending it. But also, this is a corner building. And of course, this particular image doesn't show it so clearly. This is a corner building, a commercial building. It is not a brownstone. So although I can understand the impulse to align it, it seemed appropriate to respect the somewhat different character of this building and do something that's relatively modest in keeping with the character of the building and this corner condition.
Right.
Oh, and actually one of the other issues, as you can see in the photograph, is there's a Con Ed vault in the front, which would obviously complicate any actual physical construction issues with projecting it out further.
Okay, thanks so much. Commissioners, any final questions? If not, will Michael Goldblum make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Commissioner Eduardo Jefferson, yes. Okay, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, the hearing is closed. So this is a very straightforward, I think, sort of sidewalk improvement beautification project. It doesn't really touch the building at all, just the sidewalk. And in the property line, since the building is set back. I think it's fairly straightforward, but why don't we find out how straightforward it is? Commissioner Goldblum, you want to start?
I think it's appropriate.
Yeah. Commissioner Jefferson,
Appropriate.
Master,
Appropriate.
do we all agree it's
Yeah.
appropriate? I think so too. All right, I certainly agree. Then I'll ask Commissioner Chen to read the.
With pleasure. In the matter of LPC 25-01677, 145 Warren Street, AKA 385 Henry Street, Cobble Hill Historic District. The application is to construct an areaway with railing. Noting the building's style, scale, materials, and details among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Cobble Hill Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the work will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features, that the proposed metal fencing and bluestone paving will be in keeping with historic areaway fences, and paving sometimes found at corner buildings of this type, style, and age in terms of placement, material, finish, and footprint. That the simple design of the fence, the profile, and finish of the brownstone stucco clad curb, and their combined height harmonize with the building and the neighboring fencing and curbing. That the length of the fence will be compatible with the facade composition and the protection of the areaway into the sidewalk, which is less than that of the neighboring front areaway, will provide required clearances for nearby transformer vaults and differentiate it as a modern areaway at a mixed-use corner building. That the work will not detract from the special architectural and historic character of the streetscape of the Cobble Hill Historic District.
Commissioner Wilder, would you offer a second?
A second.
Thank you. Mark, would you call the roll?
Vice Chair Bland,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Equimbe,
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson, Commissioner Mahan.
Aye.
Mahan, Commissioner Master,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilder.
Aye.
With 9 in favor, none opposed, the motion passes.
That application is approved. We'll move to the next item, public hearing item number 4, LPC 25-11807, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 529, Lot 62, 43 to 49 Bleecker Street in the NoHo East Historic District. This is a classical revival style store building designed by Ralph S. Townsend and built in 1896. The application is to construct a rooftop addition, replace storefront infill, install a marquee, and construct a barrier-free access ramp.
Morning, Commissioners. Erin Ruley, Higgins, Quays, Barth and Partners. We're the preservation consultants for this project. I'm joined today by Josima Davila of High Rise, New York. They are the architects of record, and my colleague Shreya Betty. We are going to walk you through the presentation, and the team is available for any questions you might have. So this is an application for 43 Bleecker Street, as Corey just mentioned. It's a 6-story loft building located on the north side of Bleecker Street, just east of Lafayette, one building in from Lafayette, between Lafayette and the Bowery. And it is part of the NoHo East Historic District, very sort of small district located primarily along Bleecker Street. And this is an adaptive reuse project for the residential conversion of the building. And so we're going to be looking at scope at the storefront, new entry and storefront infill, new ADA ramps, and rooftop bulkheads, stair bulkhead elevators, and mechanical equipment. So, starting with a little bit of history, here is the 1940s tax photograph. You can see along Bleecker Street, the original subway kiosks here that fronted immediately at the storefronts, and then set beyond that, the historic storefront configuration. There were a series of shopfront windows and then 2 entries to the building. And we can see in in the historic photograph the sort of rhythm of the bays. So it had a high transom at the display windows with there's a high bulkhead, which we have really good historic photo details of. And then at the entryways, the much taller transom, so a low transom bar, and then the doors below that. These 1960s photographs, these are transit archives. So anytime there was a work done on the subway, they took these really amazing detailed photographs of the storefront conditions near the subway entry. And so with that, we have great details showing what was the historic condition at the building. So there was a sill with wrought iron decorative grill. These were ventilators down to the cellar level, that high bulkhead, and then a display window above that. And above that, you can see the transom popping up. The main entry had 2 steps up, so there's a grade change from east to west. In the photo on the right, you can see again that the rhythm of the transoms, the low transom bar at the entryway, and then the high transom bar for the display windows. By the time of designation in 2003, there had been significant changes at the ground floor. The infill at the entryways had been changed. This is probably dating to the 1960s or so. And then the bulkheads were clad over. So some of that historic fabric, the original bulkhead panel, and some of the grills remain under the cladding as based on probes. And then you can see there are security roll down gates above at the transom bar, and then the transoms had been blocked up at that point. There was a theater at the ground floor most recently. And then in the existing conditions, so we have intact cast iron, the sheet metal cornice is intact, all of that would be part of a restorative program. There's a significant amount of restorative work and window replacement that'll all be managed at staff level, including the restoration of the cast iron and cornice at the base of the building. This is on the left is a view from Lafayette Street looking east. So Lafayette Street was cut through, of course. It ended at Houston Street and connected in the late 19th century from Houston Street all the way up to Lafayette Place, up around closer to 770 Broadway. And as a result, the buildings were exposed, sort of cut right through the middle of the block. So we got exposed side elevations and odd-shaped angles in the intersecting properties that bordered the new Lafayette Street. So we have that building in the foreground, which is a 1920s building that is a result of the cut through. And then here we see the side elevation. This is the west elevation of 43 Bleecker Street. You can see we have some existing bulkheads and chimneys extending up at the parapet. The rear elevation fronts onto an alleyway, also part of that exposure that happens as a result of the cut through of Lafayette Street. And this is a stuccoed facade. There's no work proposed here except for restorative work and window replacement at staff level. So looking at the storefronts in detail, much of the conditions are very similar to the 2003 designation photo. So we have non-historic infill, the clad over bulkheads where the grills remain in part, and then with the security grills and covered blocked transoms. There's also a significant amount of conduit and lighting that it all attaches at the cornice, and that'll all be removed as part of the project. You can see we have the subway entry here. This makes for very sort of complicated ADA compliance issues, so we'll be looking at that. And then we have a grade change from the west side of the site, and we're stepping up on the east side of the site. And so all of that sort of is addressed as part of the ramping over the vault area. So overall proposal, we'll first be looking at the storefront infill and the ramp and new residential entry, and then moving up to the new consolidated bulkheads on the rooftop. So in terms of details, the entry on the left side, so we have existing condition on the top, proposed condition on the bottom. The leftmost entry is going to be a commercial entry. We have 3 display windows and 2 retail entries as part of that. Another display window, and then this will be the residential entry at the east bay. The ramp will extend in front of these sort of these last 2 bays in order to provide barrier-free access to the retail entry and to the residential entry. There is also a small grade change that happens at the leftmost bay, but that ramp can be accommodated because it's so low, that can be accommodated on the interior. As I said, we're dealing with really sort of congested conditions in front of this building. There's also a proposed marquee that we'll look at in detail here. So existing on the top, proposed rendering, the new entry infill. This is all sort of modeled on the proportions and scale of the historic. So we have the high transom bar at the display windows and the low transom for the entries, and then the tall entries below that. The grills, we've done probes. The grills, what remains are in very poor condition, so those will be replicated. They're existing wrought iron. They'll be replicated to match in dimension and profile, and then reinstalled. So this whole condition is intended to match the historic. It'll be wood framed with wrought iron, and the storefronts themselves will be aluminum replaced. So the display windows, transoms, and entries are all aluminum. And then the ramp will extend. This is a painted diamond plate, so very consistent with the loft building typology, and with a simple metal railing to protect the edge of the ramp itself. Looking at that in section, we have at the entryway on the left, the storefront bulkhead with the ramp intersecting in the center view, and then at the residential entry. So this is the proposed marquee. It is 4 feet in projection, or 4'6" maybe. But just a few notes at the community board, there were significant comments. Much of that, based on that discussion, there have been significant changes to the storefront proposal. There were originally 2 marquees proposed, and they projected 9 feet. And so we've removed it. There's only 1 marquee, and it's only projecting 4.5 feet at this point. And there were storefront design changes that were reflected the conversation at the community board, and we'll see some of those details as we go through. So here's the ramp condition. We have the replicated grills, the sill below that, ramping up at this 3rd bay, and then extending to provide access to the 2 entries at the east end of the building. We have the subway entry here, so we have required clearances from this entry. We cannot ramp to this entry because of the location in front of the subway. And then there are required distances where the ramp must end prior to the start of the subway entrance. So we ramp up and then capture those 2 in one sort of comprehensive ramp that also provides for stairs down to the street level. Some details of the marquee. It'll have signage on 3 sides, both sides and the front edge, with aluminum letters. They'll be halo lit, so just having a soft glow around the outside of the letter. And it will have we're going to take the model of the grill work, the historic grill work, and use that as a cladding for the underside of the marquee to have some continuity in terms of the new and old elements. And here you can see the projection of 4'6", and then it's 6'9" wide. So it's just running from cast iron pier to cast iron pier. Of course, the commission has approved similar ramps. All of these examples are in Soho, but they're all most relevant because it's the same building type. So we're dealing with the loft building type, and so similar period and style. Diamond plate ramps with combined ramp and stair with simple painted railing. So all very sort of consistent in the approach that has been used over and over again in Soho and NoHo. Similarly, other marquees that we see throughout the NoHo historic districts, some of these were legacy projects prior to designation and others were commission approved. Probably most significant is 18 Bleecker Street, which is just a little bit to the east of us on Bleecker in the NoHo East District. This was also an adaptive reuse project, but very similar in terms of the approach to the marquee, sort of shallow projection, quiet black finish. This has internal illumination in its signage for the Sheen Center a little bit to the east of us. So then just looking at the elevations, we have this is the west elevation, so fronting toward Lafayette Street, removing the existing bulkheads and chimneys that extend along the parapet and then consolidating it under, it's a new stair and 2 elevator overruns. So that we have the stair bulkhead. Mechanical is surrounded by a mechanical screen that sits atop the new stair bulkhead, and then 2 elevator overruns extending up. At the rear, as I mentioned, there's no proposed scope at the rear aside from a staff level restorative and window replacement. But we see in the distance the new proposed bulkhead. On the east elevation, so this is the exposed elevation along Bleecker Street, we have, again, cleaning up the existing extensions for chimney and bulkheads at the east side. And then here, since the bulkhead is located against the east elevation, matching the existing condition, so a brick, building up the brick for the parapet to match, to extend for the new stair bulkhead. There's mechanical screening above that, and then those 2 elevator bulkheads. So above the existing cornice line, so this is along Bleecker Street, the projection above the existing cornice, we have first the stair bulkhead, and then the elevator overrun. This is all clad in, it'll be stucco coated, and then metal mechanical screen sitting on top of the bulkhead, stair bulkhead. Some of the existing conditions at the roof, so a collection of bulkheads, stair, elevator bulkheads, and then an enclosed kind of lounge in the middle of the plan. From one of the existing tenants, and then some dunnage sort of scattered around the site. In terms of plan, here's the existing condition. This is the lounge I described, existing dunnage and chimneys and elevator and stair bulkheads. So the proposal here, the new stair bulkhead is up against, extends the east parapet of the building. That's sort of secondary elevation. We have the pair of stairs, a corridor here, 2 elevators and their elevator machine rooms adjacent to that, and then a vestibule for the area. This will be amenity space for the residential tenants, and everything that will happen up here in terms of landscaping, furniture, that's all going to be meet the staff level rules. At the upper level of the bulkhead, we have the mechanical equipment all surrounded by the mechanical screen, and then those 2 overruns just to the west of that. Here's the consolidated bulkhead, stair, mechanical, and elevators. And looking in the other direction. And then here we see it in Axon. I think this is maybe a error in the rendering. The intent is not for it to be this dark, but sort of a soft gray to recede against the sky. We have the mechanical enclosure here, and then the equipment within the 2 elevator overruns extending up. And you can see the continuation of that brick wall, which will be painted to match the lower wall. So then just a quick walk around the site to understand the visibility. We have the mock-up on the roof, a zoom of the mock-up here to understand the sort of details of it, and then a rendering. In most cases, the rendering has exaggerated the visibility, so but the mock-up is accurate, but we're seeing a little bit more in the rendered form than is shown in the mock-up. So here we would have the extended parapet wall, the mechanical above that, and then the elevator bulkhead. This is on Bleecker Street, just a little bit to the east. A little bit farther to the east along on Bleecker, we're getting this long view. It's primarily the elevator bulkhead that we're seeing here, and we're going to catch a little bit of the screen and the parapet extension. From the south on Mott Street, so this is probably the sort of maximum view where you get the most complete view of what's happening, the extended parapet, mechanical enclosure, the bulkhead, and elevator overrun. Down Mulberry, we have about a 3 or 4 foot stretch where we're going to just get the sort of uppermost section of catch the site of the elevator bulkhead. And moving over to Lafayette, in the distant view, you'll see the 2 elevator overruns and just the sort of top edge of the mechanical enclosure. About 2 blocks to the south, like we're on the south side of Houston Street here, we're going to have an angled view looking back toward the building. This will be more pronounced once the scaffolding is down at 418 Lafayette Street, this corner building. But what you're going to see is just sort of that front elevator overrun and a portion of the stair bulkhead in the distance. And then finally, the view between Broadway and Lafayette on Bleecker, looking to the east, where we're removing the existing chimney, and it's sort of getting replaced with the new elevator overruns on this elevation. And of course, this is in the context of the roofscapes of the NoHo districts, where we see, as a result of the industrial use factory buildings, we see lots of exposed rooftop accretions, the elevator bulkheads, stair bulkheads, and other utilitarian equipment. And then also in the context of adaptive reuse projects, where you now provide elevator service to rooftops, we see that's the further development of that. And I think that's most clear in 770 Broadway, which we see here in the distance, and sort of the rooftop development on that building. And then just sort of an overall rendering to give you a sense of the complete proposal, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Very clear proposal. Commissioner Ginsburg has a question.
Yeah, the elevator overruns seem tall. Is that the minimum height required?
Yes, we see this pretty standard, 23 feet above the roof deck is, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I think she also said that the rendering slightly exaggerated the height. So I think the mock-up is actually more accurate. All right. Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Jefferson.
Page 27.
Yes, sir.
You have the railing up above.
Mhm.
Why did you do that? Why not just carry the wall up as a parapet?
This is mechanical enclosure, and I think it requires ventilation from we could yes, we could do that. Mm-hmm.
Makes it more visible.
Mm-hmm. More identifiable, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's a very good point.
Any other questions? At this point, Mark, could I ask you to just give us a little primer, particularly for the new commissioners, or even those of us who might need a primer, about providing ADA access on the public sidewalks? I know we do it. It might seem intrusive and even inappropriate to new eyes, but we do it all the time, and I just would like a little context if you could
Sure. I mean, the ADA requires to the extent feasible, primary entrances to be accessible. And the commission has long approved ramps and lifts on primary facades, and finding them appropriate in the vast majority of cases. The ADA also requires that to the greatest extent feasible, that primary entrances are used and secondary or services entrances are discouraged. So we continue to approve these things, and we've made changes to our rules to reflect the sort of acceptance of these as typical structures you'll see in New York City by allowing the staff to approve many of these in many, many instances.
Yeah. So rather than seeing them as visually inappropriate or something, we actually celebrate the idea that we can provide access, universal access to our historic buildings in historic districts. So it's a positive thing. And I just think for new eyes, it's maybe like jarring sometimes to see that, but
I could just add one thing as well.
Yeah,
The
thanks.
application with regard to the ramp is actually quite close to what the staff would ordinarily review and approve.
Right.
In terms of its materials, kind of simple ramp with no switchbacks, finishes, things like that. In this case, it's because it's got an extension to it, capturing two entrances with some space in between and steps, that it becomes something maybe more like a platform than just a simple standalone ramp. So that's really the reason why you're looking at.
So that's a good point, in that the rules allow staff to approve many of these, but not in this case, as you just pointed out. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Frank.
Simple question. What is the material of the handrail at the ramp and color?
Black painted metal.
Okay. If there are no more questions, I'll ask if there's anybody in the room who would like to provide testimony on this application? No? All right, Michelle Craren. both hands are up.
In Zoom who would like to testify, please use the raise hand function and I'll call on you. Okay, first we have Christina Conroy. I've promoted you to panelist. Please state your name for the record and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Christina Conroy for the Victorian Society, New York. Now, we support most of the elements of this proposal. The rooftop addition is modest in scale. While quite visible from the side, its design and materials allow it to fit seamlessly into the existing side wall, and it will not be obtrusive or an obvious change. The storefront restoration is generally appropriate, with one notable exception. The drawings explain that the reproduced bulkhead grills will be applied to the existing bulkheads, but the existing bulkheads are not original, do not align, and are too tall, as can be seen by comparing the existing condition with the excellent historic photos. The existing bulkheads should be reconstructed to their correct positions and the new grills better integrated with them, rather than being stuck on as appliques. We also recommend that the entrance doors be taller so that they have a better proportional relationship to the transoms above. Now, the original door head positions can be determined by looking at their relationship to the cast iron columns in the historic photos. Also, the storefront framing should be more detailed than the square-sectioned aluminum proposed. Finally, the material of the storefront cornice's unusual decorative frieze should be identified, and restoration notes for that feature should be provided. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we have Kaylee Johnson. I've promoted you to panelist. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Kaylee Johnson with the Historic Districts Council. HDC finds the majority of this proposal to be appropriate and well-designed. We are, however, wondering why the applicant is not replacing the existing bulkheads if they are redoing the whole storefront. We are concerned about the proportions and material differences of the storefront framing on the existing bulkheads. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else who would like to testify, please use the raise hand function. Seeing no further hands raised, I note for the record that Manhattan's Community Board 2 recommends mixed approval, approving the restoration and replacement of grill work beneath the storefront windows and approving the rooftop equipment and elevator bulkheads, but recommending denial of the infill unless it closely references the proportions and design of the historic photographs, denial of the marquees as unsuitable, and also denial of the ramps. Thank you.
Okay, give you the opportunity to respond to the testimony.
Happy
Thank
to.
you. Thank you.
So just with regard to the community board application, at the time of that presentation, the scope was different. So in response to their feedback, as I said, we originally had two marquees. One was at this entry and one was here. That was 9'6". We've reduced it to one marquee of 4'6". It also had internally illuminated signage, which we've removed and replaced with new halo lit signage. The proportions of all of the details, everything has gotten much closer to the historic in terms of transom heights and entry heights. So all of the details that they were responding to have really been addressed. There was a second ramp proposed at this western bay, and we've moved that to the interior. It was only a few inches in grade change. And so these design changes were really, that conversation really is reflected in this modified proposal that you're seeing. In terms of the overall height of the bulkhead, the intent is to match the historic. So here is probes that we've done from the interior of the storefront. We know these are 2.5 feet tall. This is what looks to be historic framing where the grills were inset within that. And so the proposal is to replicate all of this. So new wood bulkhead configuration that will hold the replicated grill work. And so it's not, what we're seeing in the existing condition is a built up system slightly. And so it is a slightly taller in terms of sill height because it's clad over all of this historic material. But that is very much the intent is to match the historic condition. I think that is everything. The cornice is sheet metal. It'll be restored with staff, and the grills will, of course, be integrated into the system, much like you see here, and will not be applied.
So by responding to the height of the bulkhead, I think you're responding specifically and directly to the Victorian Society's testimony. Is that right?
Yes. And I think HDC mentioned it as well.
Right.
And so we can look, just to get back to the existing conditions. All right. They basically wrapped the bulkhead, at least in the locations where the grills remain. One of them is much lower, so we know that that's gone. But in the locations where they remain, the existing condition is basically just a clad over material around the existing historic bulkhead. So if we look at this bay in particular, this is reflecting a slightly lower condition than this existing condition. But once this is all opened up, then we'll know once the cladding is removed. But the exterior cladding has not been removed, but all conditions will match.
Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Goldblum?
Just, I'm sorry, I might have missed it, but why not just keep the old stuff?
Keep the
grills,
grills,
why not
are deteriorated. They need to be
and so they're not restorable.
not restorable, no.
Okay. All right, thanks.
And we're happy to provide documentation to staff
I got it.
to further that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions before we close the hearing? Seeing none, I'll ask Commissioner Master to make a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Let's see, Commissioner Mahan to offer a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of closing the hearing?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is now closed. I think this is a very actually elegant solution to a series of issues and problems. I hope that the very elegant rendering that we're looking at now really reflects the reality of what we will see. I think it does. Commissioner Master, would you like to start on this one?
Sure, I would love to. I think that the barrier-free access ramp is simply designed, and given the needs that we have for it to serve two entrances, is appropriate. I think that the bulkhead, the rooftop addition, is also appropriate. I know that there is some visibility, but I think that they have tried to minimize some of the side view visibility by using the same stucco. So I can find that appropriate. I think that the marquee signage is modest and appropriate. The storefront infill, I like the changes that they've made. I think it increases the symmetry of it and increases the transparency. I think that the grill bulkhead is very attractive. I would make one suggestion that the details here are very important, so I would have them work closely with staff as they do the details on the bulkhead and the grill on the bottom of the storefront. Other than that, I can find it appropriate.
Thank you. Commissioner Egwimbe?
Yes. Overall, I do find this to be appropriate. I like the elegance of the storefront and the detail that was taken to actually try to bring it back to its original state. I understand the necessity to add the ADA accessibility, and I think it was done in a smooth and simple way. And for the grills themselves, I do understand that it's also it takes actually kind of reverse engineering things to kind of bring them back to their true glory. So I believe the intent is to do that, and so I'm in alignment with that as well. As for the bulkhead, I do believe it is appropriate. And I like the thought that was taken of actually bringing the brick up of the side of the building to reduce its impact.
Thank you. Commissioner Mahon?
I think this is a commendable project. It's an important kind of work, and we can see clearly in this rendering, the way that the street and the way that the building is a part of its community is going to be revivified by this project. So it's commendable, and I think the attention to detail and proportion is commendable. I find the storefront work to be appropriate. I find the proportions to be elegant, the restoration work and the attention given to historic conditions to be appropriate. I think the marquee is appropriate. It's simple, ramp, and access appropriate. I think the scale of the bulkhead is appropriate, especially given the bulkheads in the neighborhood. I could quibble with the mechanical screen being a distinctly different color than the brick below it. I understand that it needs to aspirate. That's completely understandable, but it could be perhaps a different color. Other than that, it's I find it appropriate.
Thank you. Commissioner Wilder?
I agree with. Also appreciate like small little challenges. Kind of hit the point. I'm not sure. Fire for this motion. In regards to the roof, I think validation of all of the things that probably better to look at. Thank you.
Don't start over.
I forgot everything I said. But yeah, I can appreciate the work at the roof. I don't love the height of the elevator overrun, but it is necessary, I guess, for the function of the building. And I agree with the comment from Commissioner Jefferson earlier about the screening at the roof. I think there look to be some room to move the mechanical equipment away from that back wall. So I think the applicant should consider that as well. But besides that, I think it's appropriate.
Thank you. Commissioner Chen.
I'm in agreement as well. I think that given its prominent location, that this is an improvement. But I agree with Commissioner Masters' comments.
Commissioner Ginsburg.
I agree, appropriate. I just add, there was a comment about maybe putting a lift instead of a ramp. Ramps are much better because they don't require the maintenance, and lifts are often broken. So I think this ramp and then the platform with the stairs is pretty elegant solution to the issue.
I'll also comment on that. I think also the public is being used to seeing these ramps, and it's part of a kind of an overall gestalt that we see on the streetscape, and a lift is not. It's an odd thing there that also can break.
There are times where you don't have enough space for a ramp where you have to. look at
Exactly
the
right.
ramp.
Or the lift or the vertical distance is just too great.
Right.
Commissioner Goldblum.
Thank you. I agree that the general design is appropriate, both at the street level and up on the roof. I think that the Angie's note about having the applicant work with staff on the details of the storefront is a good one. And the goal being obviously to replicate the historic condition to the greatest extent possible. Up on the roof, I think that it is a good idea to try to push those AC units away from the parapet if possible, and move that grill back. It looks like there's an awful lot of real estate up there that would allow for that, and it would reduce the visibility and improve the overall effect. There's also a couple of things that the staff can work on with the applicant. They show the stucco on 3 sides of the bulkhead and brick on the 4th, and usually what happens is that the brick returns a little bit. You know, it's not like meeting at a sharp knife edge. It's very hard to do that, and it won't last very well. And there's no coping shown. There probably will be a coping, so they should just work with staff on what would be appropriate for both of those details.
Thank you. Commissioner Jefferson.
My fellow commissioner said all the points that I have.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, from my point of view too, I'll just add that I think if we can reduce the visibility at the roof, that's fine to do, but I think the applicant showed how prominent rooftop additions, visually visible rooftop additions are prominent throughout this district, and I think it won't call attention to itself in my judgment. And I think all of us have been calling for very close coordination with staff on this project to get the details right, particularly at the bulkhead. Commissioner Master, would you offer the testimony?
Sure. In the matter of LPC-25-11807, 4349 Bleecker Street in the NoHo East Historic District. The application is to construct a rooftop addition, replace storefront infill, install a marquee, and construct a barrier-free access ramp. I note that the building's style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the NoHo East Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the proposed work will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features, that the surviving ornamental wrought iron grills at the storefront bulkheads will be restored and missing grills will be recreated as needed, that the proposed black aluminum storefronts will be in keeping with the historic storefronts in terms of placement and compositional arrangement, that the entrance infill will recall original doors as documented in historic photos, that the proposed design and materials of the small marquee and signage, including black metal framing and pin-mounted halo-lit metal lettering, will recall in a contemporary manner historic marquees sometimes found on buildings of this age and style. That the barrier-free access ramp featuring black finished diamond plate cladding, steps, and metal handrail will be simply designed and will provide access to the eastern commercial and residential entrances in the simplest manner possible. That the proposed stair and elevator bulkhead will facilitate the adaptive reuse of this building from commercial to residential use, and its size and scale will not overwhelm the building. That the rooftop addition will only be visible over the front facade from limited vantage points at a distance, where only the upper portion can be seen, and when seen over the lot line wall will be simple in form and will blend harmoniously with the stucco sidewall, and therefore will not overwhelm the building or call undue attention to itself. That the design and materiality of the rooftop addition, featuring stucco cladding, gray finished mechanical screens, and metal doors, will be utilitarian in character and consistent with other rooftop additions found at other buildings of this type within this historic district, and that the work will not detract from the special architectural or historic character of the building and the historic district. I also recommend that the applicant work with staff to make sure that the storefront details be further articulated, and also explore with staff potentially reducing the visibility on the roof.
Thank you. Commissioner Ikwembe, would you offer a second?
Second.
Mark, would you call the vote?
Vice Chair Bland,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Ikwembe,
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson, Commissioner Mahan,
Aye.
Commissioner Master,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilder.
Aye.
9 in favor, none opposed. The motion passes.
That application is approved with those modifications. We'll move to the next item. That's public hearing item number 5, LPC 25-11238, an application for a binding report in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 73, Lot 10, 89 South Street in the South Street Seaport Historic District. This is a modern pier and retail structure built in 2014 and altered by shop architects in 2015 to 2017 pursuant to a binding commission report. Application is to install a temporary rooftop structure.
Good morning, Commissioners. George Giaquinto from Seaport Entertainment Group. Just as an aside, the Seaport Entertainment Group is a public company listed on the New York Stock Exchange. We were created in a spinoff from the Howard Hughes Company last July, so we're about a year old. We're headquartered here in New York. And amongst our assets, the largest asset is the Seaport ground lease. The application in front of you this morning is for a temporary winter structure to be installed on the roof of Pier 17. It's here because the commission approved a master plan for the winter rooftop in 2018, and this varies significantly from that master plan. It's a heated structure that will be installed at the end of the summer concert season in mid-October. It will be open from late November through mid-March, and then it'll be dismantled to make way for the summer concert series again. The structure will be used to extend the rooftop concert series into the winter, community and private events, and then generally when it's not being used for those items, it'll be open to the public. So just to sort of explain some parameters of designing the tent, this is on the left-hand side is the summer concert venue that we have on the roof. It's been there 6 years. This is our 7th season. You see the stage. The stage in a general admission venue is usually 5 feet off grade to make sure that there's optimal viewing for all attendees. 20 feet above that stage is the lighting rig, which is the recommended height for lighting for a concert stage of that type. And then in the summer, you see there's a canopy over that lighting rig to essentially provide weather protection for the performers. As we go to the winter, we're essentially just putting a tent over that venue. We have to start at 25 feet to get over the lighting rig. The canopy would be removed as the tent would provide that weather protection, but also not only for the performers, but for the guests of the concert. In the winter, because we're in a snow prone area, essentially a flat roof is not recommended. Not only does the structure not accommodate that, but it's certainly the tent manufacturers would not recommend a flat roof in a snow prone area. And so the roof needs to be pitched. The pitch, as you know, as I just said, the ends of the gable ends of the tent start at above 25 feet. And the pitch is determined by a number of items, the structural capacity of the roof that it could hold, and then the desire to have as few obstructions to the viewing for the concert series. When you get there, the pitch of the roof here is at 50 feet above the rooftop. Why are we doing this? It's no secret that visitation to the seaport declines significantly in the winter months, particularly January to March. For the past 6 years, we've tried a number of programs on the roof, most involving skating rinks and around visitation with skating or experiences with skating. They seem to work mildly in November and December, but January through March continues to be an issue. It's not just an issue for us and our property. There is a seaport neighborhood, surrounding us that is not within our leasehold that benefits greatly from the summer concert series, and that struggles in the winter with us. And you can see just by this graph, I mean, we are at 20 to 30% of the visitation in an average summer month. So the concert series that we have been doing for the last 6 years, and this is our 7th, is well recognized. It's been very successful for us. We have a 91% sell-through rate on average, which is makes it one of the better small venues in the country. We've not only been recognized by industry publications and groups, as you could see, but the artists who play there love the venue. It's been called the Urban Red Rocks. It's been called Red Rocks of the East. And some have just said that it is amongst the best venues they've played in their career. There are also ancillary benefits to our concert series. We employ or contribute to the employment, and I say contribute because some of our services are contract services like security, but we contribute to the employment of over 300 people. What we've been tracking is where people are coming for this venue, and outside of the direct marketing area or tri-state region, we're seeing growth each year in people wanting to come to the venue because of its special nature. And just sort of anecdotally have talked to people who have indicated that they come to New York to stay for a few days just to visit the concert for their favorite artist. So we're supporting not only the micro local community, but the city as well. And then our community work will continue if we do this in the winter. We have worked with VetTix, which is a not-for-profit that provides free experiences to veterans who've served our country. And we've worked with them since the inception of the concert series and would continue to work with them in the winter as well. Here's an axiometric of the tent. As you can see, the gable ends are at 28 to get over the stage, and the pitch of the roof takes you to 50 feet. It's mostly glass and metal, and I'll go through that in a little more detail, but you are looking north to south, north on your left-hand side to south, and essentially that corner is a fire-rated wall system. That's metal panel with rock wool. That essentially is required by DOB given its proximity to the exits from the roof. But there's one on this side and there's also one on the back side of the south side. So again, typical sort of temporary structure, aluminum profile, columns, black PVC roof. And then the firewall metal panel, which is not shown in this photo, but essentially gives you a sense of what the tent would look like. And then again, just to orient on the roof, the east side of the roof is where the concert venue is. This is existing stage that gets covered. And then this is really to show that there is a public access area on the roof that we're required to maintain at all times. And the tent does not interfere with that public access area. And then this is a bird's eye view of the tent. Again, it's consistent with the glass and metal structure of the pier. The black roof, we thought, particularly in the evening, would disappear. As we look for historical precedents, we were looking within the neighborhood, but also outside the neighborhood in some cases, but looking for raised slope structures that are above sort of a flatter plane building. And so we've tried to, I'll just sort of page through these. We tried to find that in various places. Obviously, this one not in the Seaport neighborhood, but thought it was interesting, the head house at Chelsea Pier. And then Pier 4 and Pier 20 as well. Have those types of structures where you have a flatter, lower portion with a raised roof that's sloped. There are elevations from the south, from the north building. And then just to remind the commission, this was the master plan approved for the winter in 2018 on the roof. I put this up because the following photos that will show that from various areas within the district are compared to what we showed in 2018. So on the left-hand side will be what was the approved master plan, and on the right-hand side will be what we're proposing. I just will point out that staff had asked us to compare exactly use the photos exactly used in 2018, so they're not necessarily up to date with the existing conditions. This one in particular, the new market site building has been demolished. You would see the tent exactly where that red line is, essentially would show the tent through, and this is at Beekman on the south side on the east side of South Street. On the east side of Fulton Street, South Street. At Pier 15, again on the east side at John Street. From Front Street on John Street. Is it Fulton in front? The Beekman in Front Street. Next slip in Front Street. I think that's it.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions myself, and then we'll ask others. Just remind us, the stage itself currently it goes away in the winter. Is that right?
We don't remove the flat portion of the stage. We do remove the uprights.
The
We have removed
superstructure.
the uprights and the canopy in the past.
Right. Just so to put that into context then, so that would not be removed during the winter now. It would stay up.
The canopy would be removed. The canopy that covers the stage would be removed, but just below
the tent
that
would-
canopy is the lighting rig for the stage.
And it would, I
So
see.
that would stay.
All right. So visually, a pretty large structure up there would be there all winter. And from what months to what months?
So we will start installing in mid-October. It would be complete. The installation would be complete in late November, and then it would stay up to mid-March.
Okay.
So
And
it's
you would,
roughly 110 days.
and you would continue to have concerts the way you do in the summer. And I have to suppose that the South Street Seaport Museum supports this idea.
Yeah, I believe they would.
I mean, you're separate from them, I think,
Yeah, we are
right?
separate.
That they support it.
I presume they do.
Okay. Are there other questions? Yes, Commissioner Jefferson.
Is this temporary?
It's temporary.
Or when are you going to come back next year and ask for it again? Is this a temporary thing?
I think it's
When
probably,
or what's the duration of this?
it's better to characterize it as a seasonal installation. So it's part of the master plan where, every year the applicant could install, disassemble and then reinstall the tent, but they're asking for it temporary in the sense that it's, 4 or 5 months over the winter months, but that would reoccur every year, and, until which time they wish to perhaps ask for a change or not do it any longer.
I think the original idea was that somehow this would all go away in the winter and the public could enjoy winter activities up on this roof. I think you've made the point that they don't seem to be enjoying it as much as you had hoped, and that this is another way of encouraging for pay enjoyment of a
And
concert.
The concept, and we're not certain how many we'll book, but the concept would be to have 30 concerts during that 110 days, right? So the days that we're not having those concerts, it would still be open to the public. It still would be heated. And so it would give them a place to go if they wanted to on the roof and walk around.
I see. Okay. I think that's not a,
16,000 square feet under the tent, so it's pretty substantial.
and would there be activities then that, or they just would go and sit there?
Programming, community activities. Well, I mean, we do in the summer a whole series of activities for people, Seaport Fit and other movie nights and things of that nature. And we're trying to organize that for the winter as well.
Commissioner Ginsburg.
I have two questions. Doesn't the roof by building code need to be a light color?
Isn't the roof of the tent, you mean?
Yes.
Need to be a light?
I know that a regular roof does. I don't know about a temporary roof, which is why I'm asking.
I'm not aware of that. That's not something that's come back from our
Okay.
code
And then
review.
the second question, which is again related to color, if you look at page 22, there is a color scheme that I'll describe as blue turquoise of the existing building. Would it be possible to have the tent in that color scheme?
You mean the tent roof?
Well,
The rest is glass and metal.
right, but so's the lower part, glass and metal, isn't it?
Correct, yes. So the roof tensile structure is double layer. So the inner layer could be black, the outer layer could be other colors. I know they're offered in white and grays. I'm not sure if they're offered in blues, but we could certainly check that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jefferson.
So the master plan is no longer a master plan?
No, the master plan would remain intact. This is a proposal to amend that master plan to change from the seasonal installation of the ice skating rink and structures that supported it to this new cover for the stage. So the master plan is intact. This is just a change to it for the winter time.
Another question for me. Had you considered other shapes? I'm sure this is a very logical, straightforward, and probably the easiest to erect, but I'm thinking of tensile structures. They can be very fanciful and sail-like, and, there you are on the water. I'm just wondering if another shape might have been considered.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. So the structure, there's a structural system on the roof of davits that are tied directly into building structure. And so the building structure has, a very rigid 20 feet spacing. And so our davits are done in that manner as well. So we're sort of limited as to the davit layout. The The other piece of this is there's an efficiency, right, to this. If the more complicated the tent is to install, the longer it takes, the less of a season we have.
Yeah.
And the earlier we'd have to either end the summer season or begin the winter season. And so it becomes sort of less efficient for us if the structure gets too complicated. It also, some of those complicated structures that we did look at would require structure in areas that would more than likely create visual problems or create an area of the tent that would be less, less desirable.
Right. I understand that the Davits create the plan, but it doesn't necessarily create a sense of what could happen in terms of a more fanciful roof. And I do accept the idea that it would probably be more expensive, even take longer to do. But I think it, just my own thoughts, it would be an iconic leap forward on the harbor to see something more fanciful than this kind of pedestrian roof. That my own thoughts. Yeah, we're engaging in a nice discussion, which I think is appropriate because this is a kind of a change to the public use of a rooftop that we have approved, and I just want to be sure that we're trading off in a right way. So, yeah, Commissioner Go.
Was any analysis done as to the degree to which this structure would block the views of the Brooklyn Bridge?
I mean, other than these photos and understanding where the views of the bridge would be.
Right. Well, given my limited imaginative abilities, the images you show suggest that there might be actually some obscuring of the bridge from a public way, even though it's not shown explicitly in the images that you've provided. So I guess the answer to the question is no, you haven't actually analyzed that in a way that would be typical for projects that are presented to the commission. Am I saying that wrong?
I don't think you're saying it wrong. I think what we have traditionally done here is show the views from the neighborhood and showed what's approved. And in these photos, if the bridge was visible in any of these photos, which I don't see the bridge in any of these views.
Well, the reason it kind of popped into my head is because I remember when the project was originally presented to us, views of the bridge was one of the things that was talked about, if I'm not mistaken. It was a while ago, but that's my recollection. So it just seemed like a natural follow-up.
I think the views of the bridge and the view corridors of the bridge that we had were in certain areas at grade that are not from these views that I'm providing. Those are unobstructed, right? We're not impacting the view from the central corridor within the pier, the north porch of the pier, the southern and eastern ends of the pier. Those aren't impacted by this tent. These views, as you can see from the previous approval, the bridge is not visible in any of these views. Sorry. And so to say we're obstructing the bridge views or should study more the obstructing of the bridge views, they aren't in any of these views that we've been asked to provide. So
yeah, Michael, weren't most of those views actually within, as was just suggested, in the pier structure itself?
Correct.
And through
There's a central corridor down there.
yeah, I don't recall the rooftop being part of that.
This is presented that this Portland Bridge was something that was talked about. The question was that the height of the structure was more or less commensurate with the height of the previous structure that replaced them there. Significantly impact views.
Right. Okay, Commissioner Ginsburg.
I may be missing something, but on page 19, which shows the photos, there's a photo 8 indicated from the Brooklyn Bridge,
yeah.
but I don't see a
Yeah,
photo 8.
we had essentially, this elevation would be your view from the Brooklyn Bridge.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I apologize for it.
Yeah, Commissioner Mann.
In the photo comparisons of the approved and proposed, the master plan provided is quite irregular shapes, lots of different activities are indicated. Is it accurate that this approved master plan photo is the total three-dimensional outcome consequence of that plan? In other words,
Or the actual
that
photos?
master plan was primarily low elements, am I to surmise?
Yeah, the master plan that was approved, most of the elements were no higher than 20 feet, 25 feet.
I see, okay.
Not in the winter, no. This was the winter master plan. The winter master plan had a series of octagonal tents and rectangular tents that were, or temporary structures that were.
Is that what those elements, they almost look yellow, are?
Yeah, that's what you're.
Those are elements of the master plan. Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there are no more questions from commissioners, I think we'll go to testimony. Anybody in the room would like to testify? Seeing none, I guess now we'll take it for you, Stephen Thompson.
Those joining us via Zoom who wish to offer testimony, please use the raise hand function, after which you'll be promoted to panelist. We ask you to unmute yourself, state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Our first speaker will be Taina Prado.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good morning, Chair Carroll and members of the commission. My name is Taina Prado, and I serve as the Chief of Staff of the Downtown Alliance, which manages the Business Improvement District for Lower Manhattan, south of Chambers Street. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today in strong support of the Seaport Entertainments Group application to install a temporary rooftop structure at Pier 17. While the South Street Seaport falls just outside of our official assessment area, it remains a vital part of the Lower Manhattan ecosystem and a treasured asset for the city as a whole. The Downtown Alliance supports its application for a seasonal winter tent, which will enable the continued activation of the rooftop during the colder months, an important period when visitation typically declines in the immediate area. The Seaport Summer Concert Series has already proven successful in drawing foot traffic to the area, directly benefiting nearby small businesses, including retailers, restaurants, bars, and hotels. A temporary winter installation will allow this momentum to continue, driving foot traffic and economic activity year-round. We view this proposal as a timely and meaningful opportunity for the public to use and experience the space all year long while supporting the local economy. Notably, Community Board 1 has already expressed its support by voting in favor of the temporary structure. In closing, we urge you to approve the application and take the necessary steps to help bring this project to life. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Kaylee Johnson.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Kaylee Johnson with the Historic Districts Council. HDC finds this proposal to be inappropriate. We are concerned that the structure blocks important views of the city, Pier 17, Brooklyn Bridge, and the Historic District. Additionally, we assume that mechanicals will be needed for this installation, but do not see drawings for them in the presentation. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be John Graham. John, you may speak now.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Graham for the Victorian Society in New York. It's a sad commentary that such a massive and highly visible structure on the roof of this building would have so little effect on the historic and architectural character of the South Street Seaport Historic District. This is because the building on which it would sit is already as alien to the historic character of the district as it could possibly be. So while it seems pointless to object to yet another physical change in the seaport that further cements its role as an entertainment and shopping theme park, there are some questions that need answers. These questions include where the mechanical equipment is to be located for this structure. We assume that it will need heating and ventilation when in use. Another is whether roof drainage modifications are required. The third question is where the components of this enormous structure will be stored between March and November. Finally, what arrangements have been made to ensure the structure will in fact be removed? Is there an escrow proposed as part of the arrangement? Finally, we wonder why this proposal was calendared as a temporary installation. It doesn't meet the Commission's definition of temporary, nor does it meet the rules for such installations. It appears to be a request for a seasonal installation, something very different with different criteria for approval. Thank you, Commissioners.
Anyone else joining us via Zoom who wishes to offer testimony, please use the raise hand function. Seeing none, I'll note for the record that Manhattan Community Board 1 in the resolution stated that the proposed temporary structure with the black roof, pediment, and entablature may not be appropriate, is not harmonious to Pier 17, and will block views. They ask that the applicant reconsider the colors of the design and show accurate views of what is being proposed. Also, LPC received letters of support from the New York Building Congress, and 4 individuals recommend approval, as well as the Association for a Better New York.
Thank you. John, would you like to
I'd just like to say the commission obviously has considered views of new structures on roofs from the public thoroughfare, but traditionally the commission has not considered whether views of other structures will be blocked. So we haven't been regulating view corridors.
Okay. So there were some questions and some comments in the testimony, and I welcome you the opportunity to respond to those.
Sure. With respect to mechanical equipment, in prior winters, we'd had 2 to 3 chillers on the roof. They are lower height. There's usually an enclosure around them, but they, as you can see from the previous approvals, they could not be seen. There are 2 150 kW heaters that are replacing those chillers. They haven't been officially placed yet, but they will be placed in an area similar to where probably the chillers were. And, we don't expect they will be seen from anywhere within the district. I thought CB1 approved CB1 approved our proposal. I'm not sure. There were some comments associated with that in terms of changing the color of the roof, which is certainly possible from on the outside. But we again were thought that black was really the best color, particularly at night. Trying to think of the other comments, but essentially it is a modern building. This is a glass and metal structure like that building is. So we didn't it didn't seem to us to be sort of out of the ordinary to extend that glass and metal up on the roof.
Thank you. Commissioners, any final questions on this one? Yes, Commissioner Goldblum.
And I apologize if you mentioned this already. I had a call that I was out on. So this structure, when it's all done, is going to be 130 feet off the ground, right? The ridge is at 129 and change. The structure is a custom structure, or is this a stock thing that you found?
It's a custom structure
being built specially for this use.
Yeah.
And so I guess the examples of other buildings that you showed as precedents pier buildings. Do you have any sense if any of them were close to that height?
No, I don't think any of them meet the height of the pier building.
Right.
As it
They
was
look like
today.
they were about 2 or 3 stories,
Yeah,
maybe?
2 or 3 stories, correct.
Okay, thanks.
All right, any other final questions? And I think we will move to our discussion. Commissioner Ginsburg, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Chen, would you second that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so we'll begin our discussion now, and this is a proposal for a seasonal winter installation for the concert venue on the roof. And as has been pointed out, both in the presentation and in testimony, the existing pier building is a commission-approved building. And when we reviewed the proposal for the Pier 17 building, we looked at examples of other pier structures around the Hudson and the East River. We also, and noted that they were of a variety of shapes and materials and sizes depending on their age, and that they're, and it had a very sort of industrial look about them. And so when we reviewed the application for the new structure, I think the commission found that a contemporary structure that played on the language of the piers and waterfront activity was appropriate to the district. We also noted that it was cut off from the historic buildings by the FDR, and in fact, really the views of it are not in the context of those historic buildings, and so we took a different approach on the pier. We also appeared down from this. We have approved a very contemporary double-decker pier structure as well, and so we have I think accepted some contemporary and innovative and interesting designs for these pier structures in lieu of doing something that looks like a copy of a historic structure that might have been in the seaport. And so I think this is an amendment to the master plan for seasonal installations. In the past, the winter master plan allowed for these smaller structures, and this would allow for the concerts to happen longer in the season. And I think that, from their point of view, that also brings vitality and people to the seaport and to all the businesses in the seaport. But we'll be looking at this particular structure in the context of what was previously approved on the roof, knowing that this is bigger, and then in the context of this building. And to the extent that you do see it in the context of historic buildings, we'll be commenting on that. And we've seen views where looking down through streets, you catch incidental views of it in the context of the Tin Building and maybe over some buildings in the forefront. And again, this is a seasonal temporary installation. It would be assembled and dismantled, and just like with any temporary permit that we issue, there would be an agreement in place that would allow for and require that plan and time schedule for the assembly and dismantling to ensure that it follows those criteria and the guidelines for a temporary installation. And so I think we can think of it both as a temporary installation and then think about it in terms of its materials and, sort of how it relates to the new pier building in general, and then those sort of incidental views where you catch it in the context of the Tin Building. So we'll begin our discussion. Commissioner Master, would you like to start this one?
Sure. Yeah, I guess this is essentially what we would consider a seasonal installation, where it would allow this venue to be used year-round. I think the applicant has already described how in the winter months, the attendance here drops significantly. I think that in terms of the material, the glass kind of base, glass and metal base, fits in with what we're seeing here. And then the black roof has kind of a modern interpretation, which I think does not detract from what's going on at the rest in our view. In terms of the visibility that they have shown us from different vantage points, I don't think it detracts. I mean, it's certainly visible. However, there's different varying, building heights, there's different, things spatially going on. So I don't think that it really detracts from what we're seeing in terms of the cityscape. And I don't think it overwhelms this building because the base of the building is so significant. So I can find this appropriate.
Commissioner Jefferson.
The issue for me is temporary. If I had to approve that building in relationship to the image on the left, I couldn't approve it because of height, scale, proportions, all of the other issues. But because they say it's temporary, and I want to believe it's temporary, I can approve it.
All right, Commissioner Goldblum.
Well, I take the exact opposite view. You told me I had to be in jail for 6 months of the year. I'd say that that was a significant period of my time. So a 6-month pavilion, I'd say is, or, however, this is going to be up for a long time and will form a significant aspect of how this building is perceived. So I really, it's not going up for a festival for the weekend. It's months. And I think that it for me is not an appropriate proposal. Certainly, I hope and wish that the seaport generally and that this facility would be thriving and in constant use. But I think from a historic preservation perspective, I can't see a way to approve it. The scale of the existing building was set to resemble and echo the scale of pier buildings. This building at 77 feet will be increased by almost 2/3 by another 50 feet. That's a significant volume. It changes the, if we were to look at this building as it will be seen for much of the year, which is this way, I think that the aesthetic of this shed is not either recollective of the historic buildings because of its scale, although it does have a gable and those had gables, so okay. But Fred's point about the color and the shape, this is a custom structure. It's not costing 55 cents. To have it designed in such a way that it befits a relatively permanent rooftop pavilion on a relatively distinctive modern building is not too much to ask for, I don't think. They did go to the trouble of aligning the grids with the facade below, but the way that the facade was rendered, which was rather articulately, is not in any way recalled. One of the signature features of the building, the existing building, is these sliding vertical door panels, which seem to me could be very easily adapted to a movable, removable rooftop structure. I mean, it's not our job to design it for them, but I think it has to be designed. I think to paint it black and hope that nobody sees it is not a good solution. I also think that we should consider, even though as we heard, it's not necessarily the way we normally consider things. I mean, I think that the visibility of the Brooklyn Bridge is something that I would consider. And I would at least want to know that it doesn't affect the public's views of it when walking around. And I understand the concept of a corridor and that's not what we do, but I don't know. I just find this to, I think that when you look at this in combination with the summer structures that we've already approved, what we basically have is a building that will always, always, always be significantly bigger than it is. And I think that we should take that very seriously.
And I think that, I mean, the views of the bridge are going to be if you walk further south on the Esplanade, right? From this is the sort of the main view, so that may be, but I think, and we can ask for those views. I have a feeling that when you get to such a distance, it's below the bridge, but we can certainly look at those. Yeah, and I think, I mean, I guess there are really two ways to think about this. And one is to think of it as a temporary structure that is there for 6 months and therefore a sort of more temporary ephemeral approach could be okay, and it would be different from the building and not read like it was extending the mass of the building and making the building bigger. And or the other way to think about it, which is Commissioner Goldblum, your way is to think of it as, 6 months is a long time. And so it should be designed and perhaps in materials and expression that does relate to the building that though would sort of increase the kind of apparent mass of the building.
But I think Fred's idea, which he was alluding to, is appropriate as well. Because it's a rooftop structure per se, it doesn't have to match the building below, but it has to be intentional and meant to be seen. The New York City Parks Department, if I'm not mistaken, has a movable, truckable tent for the Philharmonic as it goes to the various borough parks. It's a beautiful structure. It's a tensile structure. It's trucked around and it goes up in a day. And, so yeah, the fabric structures, there's a very long history of modernist buildings with lyrical rooftop pavilions. That would be okay too. But at least it's taking into account where it is and its relationship to its context. That was my point.
All right, great. Thanks. Commissioner Ginsburg.
So let me just go through this because I understand the economic need, although that isn't necessarily what we are directly supposed to be reviewing. And I understand that the structure needs to be located to tie into the structure below, which limits it. I mean, you may get farther away and it may block a view of the bridge, but from the photos you presented, I don't think it's around it blocking a view of the bridge. I think it's a very mundane, utilitarian looking structure where I think the big mistake is trying to make it disappear at night. Well, if it's lit at night, maybe you will see it, but trying to make it fit in during the day, all the pictures are during the day, using the as I said, the blue-green colors of below, trying to make the fenestration tie in a bit with below, I think could significantly help this. Again, the black roof seems to me to just emphasize the massiveness of this. And so I think there are ways to design it to make it fit in better, as Commissioner Bland talked about earlier. Possibly some sort of air structure, but I also realize that since this is in the winter, you're going to need some sort of insulation within the structure to make it habitable.
All right, Commissioner Chen.
Yeah, I'm in agreement as well. I think there could be design improvements given its higher profile and visibility. And I think if indeed this is going to be recurred for half the year all the time, I think the design component could be restudied or something.
You ongoing? Okay, that's all right.
Chair Bland.
Okay. I think Commissioner Goldblum's extensive little essay on this topic will make mine shorter because I agree with some of it. I just want to say that I struggle way back when this building, which replaced an earlier building, which we probably all remember that Ben Thompson designed. I struggled then to approve it because putting a shopping mall over the water seemed wrong to me. It should be in inland, but that was really water over the dam at that point. So I'm struggling here still with how to put something up on the roof that's temporarily 6 months, a big visibility. So I think I am also thinking that the design challenge has not been met. Although now I accept the use of it up there during the winter. I was not even convinced of that, but I think the testimony and I mean your presentation has shown that other uses up there in the winter have not really panned out and don't bring the crowds that we would like to see there in the winter. So I accept the idea of a structure up there. It's just that the design of it, I think, is lacking the challenge that is inherent in this iconic moment. I mean, if it's not going to be Sydney Harbor, okay, maybe not. It could be something that really celebrates its moment there on the shore. I mean, go over to the Brooklyn side and look back. This is, or out to sea as a ship coming into the harbor. This is a magnificent moment to see something that's quite startling. There is in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which I drive by occasionally, quite a fanciful. It's not temporary, but it's quite fanciful. It's white. It looks like sails. It looks great. For what it's worth, I designed at Jones Beach not so long ago, a tent structure right at the heart of Jones Beach, which I think adds a sort of a playful quality. So I just think more could be done. Not just turning it white, but something a little more iconic, something a little more exciting if we're going to see this thing 6 months of the year. So I'm all for the idea. I'm just not for the design at this point.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilder.
I think one of the issues or challenges I have is I think just calling it a tent kind of gives it the wrong idea, as if it is something that's temporary, which I think also is probably an incorrect term because it is there for such a significant amount of time. We can't run away from the scale and the massing due to the use and occupancy of what's to be achieved. So I get the size of it, but I think the first thing that jumps at me is the gable roof. I think because it is a gable roof and the way it's kind of sticks up and adds this extra height to the existing building, it now makes you focus on the rest of the building because of the size of it and its relationship to the rest of the building. And so I think the roof shape size should probably be reconsidered. I can appreciate the attempt to kind of align the rest of the glass with the existing building. I don't necessarily have too much of an issue of that, but I think you start to focus on it more because this starts to look like an independent structure that probably doesn't meet the design criteria of the rest of the building. And so yeah, I think those are my main kind of concerns. I think yeah, the gable roof really adds a dimension that's probably not needed and creates a different conversation than what it should be.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Ikwembe.
I believe I am in concert with most of what was said, and I believe that further exploration should be taken I understand the use of the building and even for its size, why it is the size that it is. I think because it's so massive and it sits on top the building, it reads as it should be considered as part of the building. And as we were talking about how long that this structure would be here, it would be interesting to see how that works, how it works in relationship with the building, and also thinking about potentially what it also does look like when it's not there. So I think more time should be taken to really make this structure, if you're going to be there, and give us a reason to want to celebrate you at the same time.
Thank you for your comments on this one. I think, I think that there is support for doing a seasonal structure here, and I know that the gable and the structure is really tied into the existing structure and dealing with the snow and the weight of that. But there may be an opportunity for you to refine this a little bit more, to think about how it can have a dialogue with the building below and be maybe a special moment on the building, since it is going to be visible, and maybe make it more of a destination. So we'll take no action today. We'll just give you the opportunity to think about that a little bit more, and we'll have you back. I know timing is critical, so we'll have you back as soon as we can and as soon as you're ready. Okay, thank you. We'll move to the next item.
Next item is public hearing item number 6, LPC 25-11198, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, Block 1918, Lot 20, 257 to 263 Washington Avenue, and 230 to 236 Hall Street in the Clinton Hill Historic District. This is a neo-Gothic style church building designed by J.W. Walter and built in 1894, and a detached Gothic style church parish hall with Romanesque details built in 1924. The application is to demolish sections of the building, construct additions at the side, rear, and roof, alter the roof and facades, relocate, remove, and modify special window glazing and openings, modify and create new window and door openings, alter areaways, construct a barrier-free access ramp, and excavate at the cellar level.
Hello, everyone.
So,
I'm Brian Ripple from Combined Architecture and Interiors, and I'm joined by Valerie Campbell from Kramer Levin and Richard Diego from ownership of Orange Management. Sorry, how do I get it? There we go. So we're in the Clinton Hill Historic District. The property in question is a mid-block through-lot site, so it fronts both onto Washington and Hall Street. You can see that the configuration of the lot, it has a very irregular interior space of the rear yards. Our site has the church facing onto Washington Avenue, and there is a second structure. It's considered one building in the Department of Buildings, but it's 2 eras of construction. The second structure that faces onto Hall Street was a parish house that was used as a school until about 10 years ago. The street frontage on Washington and Hall Street is varied, and you can see on the upper image the church, and the lower image the Hall Street, the parish house. Just a brief history, 1894 was when the church portion of the building was erected. 1924, the parish house and school was added on Hall Street. 2015 is when the Lutheran Church last occupied the structure, after which point it was vacated and put up for sale. It was purchased now 3 times since then. So we're before you today as the 3rd owner and the 2nd or 3rd presentation to go before Landmarks on this project. So in 2018, it was purchased by Washington BU LLC. They received an approval for their proposal in 2018 from Landmarks, but it did not make it as far as the Department of Buildings. They then had a distressed sale in 2019. Second owner was purchasing the property, at which point, similarly for a residential conversion, that also was delayed. It got through Department of Buildings zoning review on phase one. It never made it before landmarks. And so the bank foreclosed on that in 2023. And we're now representing the third owner, 257 Washington Owner LLC. The images on the right are just two historic images from the property. Historic photos of the church side. There aren't a lot of documents on Hall Street, unfortunately. They just are missing in the historic record. But these are images of the church from, we see 1918 and the 1980s. These are circa 2019. And the important reason we're showing these photos is that even since this project was reviewed in 2018 by Landmarks, the adjacent lots have been developed both on Hall Street and on Washington, which drastically reduces the visibility of the side and rear aspects of both these buildings. More images of the current state. So the building is currently fenced off and is in a state of somewhat deterioration. Overall views from 2017, 2019. And then some images of the back of the building. So this is the back of the school structure, the parish house structure. And then the back of the apse and the connecting structure between the two. So this is the existing conditions of the building massing. So again, it's one building, two building segments with the church on the Washington side. This is not our presentation, but this is what came before Landmarks in 2018. They were proposing a rooftop addition, demolition between the two structures with new construction between them, modifications to the secondary facades for additional windows, and removal of religious iconographic stained glass, all of which was part of that previous approval. This is our proposal today. Now, as part of our due diligence, we found some significant problems with the previous proposal, and that's partially why it never made it through Department of Buildings review and zoning review. So we feel that we've come up with a proposal today, which is it's the third try at converting this church, and this is being converted as an as-of-right prospect at this point. And the elements, some of them are consistent with the previous approval, and some of them vary for reasons I can explain. So first of all, most of the work is happening on the secondary facades of the church. We are proposing a one-story addition to the parish house school structure on Hall Street. We are proposing a connecting structure between the two buildings. It's larger than what was previously approved, but we're proposing it for reasons related to zoning. These are building segments. If the building segments do not abut on every level, then our courtyard between them has certain minimum requires, which the existing condition does not meet. I can show you that dimension a little bit. We are proposing a new courtyard behind the transept, behind the spire that sort of marks the crossing of the transept. And that court is a article multi-dwelling law, section 277 compliant multi-dwelling law court. And effectively that's how we're able to achieve our light and air. And I have some diagrams later that'll go into that in more detail. In addition to that, we're proposing what we're calling inverted dormers, where instead of building dormers out, we're cutting in, which provides less visibility and sight line, but allows us to get Article 2 compliant legal light and air on the vertical surfaces of those windows. We're proposing a small addition behind the main tower, which gives us some additional floor plate, which allows us to make viable units at that level, and a new main entry. Each of these components we're going to focus on in later slides, so I'll keep going and then we can get into the more detail on them. This is the view from the Hall Street side, where you see the one-story addition, the penthouse, and then we're also proposing modifications to the existing arched openings to allow us accessible ADA entry from Hall Street. The area sort of behind, again, the transept at the connector structure, we're abutting at all levels, but also creating a flattened area to allow us to have mechanical equipment in sort of the one area of the site, which is not visible. So mechanical equipment for the church portion will be kind of hidden behind the gable of the transept, and then at the Hall Street side, again, a sloped roof, which hides the mechanical equipment in the back. The sloped roof was something that we introduced strategically to avoid requirements for having to extend bulkheads for stair access to a flat roof, which again, the previous proposal did not incorporate. So there would have been a series of bulkheads with stairs leading up there in the previous proposal. This is an image on the left of the existing conditions, image on the right of our proposed. So you're seeing our new entry to the left. That entry we'll focus on in a moment, but we're introducing it for a couple of reasons. One is to address some problems with fire code, having to do with distance from the curb for FDNY access. We are proposing to utilize the former entries, maintaining the wooden doors that are in place, but introducing glass behind them. That's one of the few areas where we have legal light and air that we can benefit from for the dwelling units. And we're replacing some existing wood paneling above those with a decorative leaded glass, clear leaded glass, to allow more light into those units. Another view from the Washington Street side, the side yard has limited visibility. There is visibility, but it's a sliver of space where you can see back to the one-story addition and to obviously the penthouse addition beyond. But at this point, you're over almost 100 feet away from those additions. On the Hall Street side, existing on the left, proposed on the right, we're proposing a one-story addition with that sloped roof. There was a couple of comments that came out of the community board related to fencing that we were proposing between these. This is going to be developed as 4 separate dwelling units, essentially almost a townhouse model of sorts. So we've adjusted those intermediate fences to be sloped such that now there's no visibility on Hall Street. And then we were originally proposing a painted aluminum standing seam. There was some comments about the shininess of it, so we've investigated instead a patinated zinc, which we also feel will weather nicely, and we have some more details on that later on in the presentation. Another view from Hall Street showing visibility. So there's no visibility of this structure from the front of either sidewalks on Hall Street. It's only at this one oblique angle. And similarly, that new structure, which is to the south of our building, obscures any visibility looking north. This is the side yard on Hall Street, where there is a small side yard which is providing us with secondary means of egress from the church structure, as well as primary egress to the upper floors of the dwelling unit on the end on Hall Street. There is a ramped ADA access there, and there's very small visibility in the distance of the back of our entry lobby, you can see. These are overview images kind of describing the extent of the proposed envelope modification. So we have new massing in gray, in sort of the red are new openings in secondary facades, and in blue are modified openings. So on the primary facade, you can see that we're modifying we're introducing glass behind the existing wood fabric at the entry doors. You can see that there is visibility of the Hall Street side, but this is again all the way on the other side of the block of the penthouse addition, and then the one-story addition is again connected to the Hall Street building. And then in the elevation, a small portion of our bulkhead can be seen in elevation, but it's virtually invisible from the sight lines of the public thoroughfare. This is the south elevation, existing and proposed. So we're showing our inverted dormers at the roof where we're cutting in. Our new MDL courtyard, again, cut into the structure, the connecting element between the two building segments. And then in red are the various masonry openings. This is secondary facades, and it's not stonework, it's brick. So we're only making new penetrations in the side brick structures. The structure behind the tower is additional floor area that we're proposing. That's a bulkhead. This is the north elevation, so cut away from that side yard we saw, where you can see our new one-story addition entry. You can see the connecting structure between the two buildings and the penthouse addition. On the Hall Street side, there are existing windows on that sort of side yard facade. We are increasing the number of those, but working in a pattern that's consistent with the original layout. This is a section cut through the center of their courtyards. We're looking at the back of the church. You can see the new connecting structure between the two. We're maintaining two of the large lancet windows at the apse area, and then introducing some new masonry openings, again, only at the secondary facades in the brick. And on the Hall Street main entry, on the left, the existing is showing that a number of the ground floor level arches have been infilled or modified. We're restoring those back to the original configuration, extending the sill lower such that we can get ADA at-grade entries. We're similarly removing a step at the main entry to the townhouse, if you'll call it, to the left, to get ADA accessibility there, and introducing a lower fence, which we have details we can show you in a moment. This is the back of that structure where we're introducing new openings at the first floor level, and extending openings down from the second floor level such that, again, we can have access to outdoor space, which has been sort of an important feature of the marketing of the structures, to provide outdoor space to all the units. An overall building section just to show kind of our strategy. We are maintaining certain floor levels in excess of 25%, which we're obligated to do to maintain this as a conversion structure. So blue are floor plates that we're working with. There's existing underpinning at the church structure that we are going to honor by not going below that. So our cellar level is going to be strategically located relative to that existing underpinning. And you can see here a better cutaway of that courtyard. Overall roof plan, there's existing slate on portions of the church. Some of that has been removed and replaced by asphalt shingles. It's in very bad shape, and water is currently penetrating into the church structure, as is the school structure. This is the overall roof plan showing the new courtyard at sort of behind the transept, the outdoor courtyard between the two building segments, as well as the various single-story additions on the ground floor and the four-story addition connecting the two building segments. We are proposing solar arrays to comply with sustainable roof requirements on the addition that we're adding on the Hall Street side. Some detailed blow-ups of the various components. So this is trying to explain a little bit the new entry, and the provision that we're confronted with was that per fire code, we have a maximum distance of 40 feet, not from the property line, but from the curb line. This building is set back quite generously. It's part of what makes the building so beautiful. But as a result, we're not in compliance with our main entry. Beyond 40 feet, you're required to provide a fire apparatus access road, which we don't have the capacity to do on the site. So as such, what we're proposing is an entry vestibule tucked into that existing side yard, where we're in effect trying to, it's a sliver of space that we're trying to activate utilizing a lot of glass. So you go through the structure and you're really seeing the building from the outside. It's a space which is thought of more as being a transitional space, and then you eventually enter through into the building after the lobby area. So we're proposing, again, patinated zinc and lots of glass in this situation. The blow-up detail elevation on the left shows that condition. So it's a very narrow element we're introducing there. We're holding it away from the stone buttress and infilling it with sort of a scribed metal panel, and then producing as much glass as we can so that we get sort of some daylight coming into those light wells. And you know, I think it's actually going to be a very interesting experience to be able to kind of walk next to the church and to see the existing stonework and the lancet windows. We're also here showing the treatment of the former entry. I'd mentioned the ADA access. So the existing entry is up by 4 steps. So to provide a ramp access to that would have been a significant structure in the front yard. By bypassing that and going next to it and complying with fire code, we're able to maintain that existing facade without any encumbrances and can still provide legal ADA access. So we're proposing to maintain all of the original wood. It'll be restored, putting glass behind it, so those doors are going to be operable, and then removing the wood panels at the lancet and introducing a decorative leaded glass, clear leaded glass in that case. There is some other leaded glass on the primary facade, which we're maintaining. This is a diagram explaining a little bit more of that courtyard, which is immediately behind the transept. So again, the diagram plan, all the X's are showing the areas that we have no existing allowable legal light and air. So for the conversion, those are the problematic areas. So the nice thing is with the new zoning, our courtyard is compliant. So all that large courtyard is actually an Article 2 compliant courtyard now, which is great. Obviously, the street frontages are great. And then we're introducing a small MDL courtyard, which is permissible under this conversion at the one spot that isn't visible from any of the public thoroughfares. So it's behind the transept, it's behind the spire. And that allows us now to activate that whole middle zone of the building. We get our legal light and air from this courtyard, but we have all the beautiful, large, sort of historic windows that can be maintained now, so that these units will have legal light and air being drawn from the courtyard, but we're preserving all of the windows on the facade. We'll get into the detail on the stained glass as sort of we have a whole appendix addressing that. The one sort of addition we're doing at the roof level is this small dormer, which is behind the existing tower. We positioned and designed the dormer to be what we're calling the view shed, so that in effect we're tucking it behind the visible angle of thanks. Oh, it's probably there. Thanks. There we go. So it's that's the kind of view line there of the tower, and we were asked to kind of explain a little bit why we chose to do that. The inverted dormer, which is a scheme that we kind of really enjoyed and liked, helps us in certain places, but as the building goes up, the geometry is such that the more you cut in, the less floor plate you have. And so in that area, we're kind of confronted with an elevator core, which has to be positioned in such a place that the elevator override won't breach the line of the roof. So we're left with residual areas of 4 or 5 feet, which are not functional. We can't get rooms in them. So that's the one area where, to try and get viable bedrooms and dwelling units, we've asked that kind of push that volume out a bit. This is just some of the details of what we're proposing. So the existing fence on Washington, we'd be replacing with a new metal fence. This detailing actually came from across the street at the Pratt Institute campus, a nice historic detail that we liked. It's going to be 4 feet high, lower than what's there right now. We're proposing to restore the existing historic lights at those entries. They're currently wall bracket mounted. We would modify them to be vertically chain mounted. And we'd like to come up with a lighting program of illuminating the facade. So you see all this beautiful stonework with sort of a grazing light that will be, we think it's going to make this building really stand out on the block and kind of highlight all of its great beauty. On a similar strategy on the Hall Street side, again, seeing the restored openings, we're introducing a fenestration pattern which was consistent with what was previously approved and consistent with the continuation of the window mullions above and muntins above. Again, a modified ladder, modified railing using that same detail. The existing railing is quite high there, so it's going to be lower, and then various appurtenances that we need to make these viable as dwelling units, so the mailboxes and the intercoms and things like that. There's existing signage that, after much debate, we've decided we'd like to keep. It's quite a beautiful font, sort of an Art Deco font that we want to keep. It's etched into the limestone. Materials, so I'd mentioned that we're proposing a patinated zinc, and we'd found these precedent images that we really were quite entranced with on the upper left and right. So it's a metal that clearly distinguishes itself from the rest of the historic fabric, but it will weather, it will age, and we feel like it has a dull look, so it's not going to stand out as a shiny object on a historic building, but will sort of begin to blend, and over time will weather with the building. We're not positive because we haven't gotten access, but we actually think that the existing spire structure, which is in bad disrepair presently, is actually a zinc structure. And at the church, we're proposing a synthetic slate product that Landmarks had previously approved on another one of our projects. We had done a conversion at 232 Adelphi a number of years back and had presented this product. It's quite visually appealing. It's hard to tell the difference between it and the actual slate, but it weighs a fraction of the weight of it, so it allows us to release some of the load on that existing roof structure, some of which will have to be replaced, but some of it we may be able to preserve some of the structure. And just the 2 images here. We also have some detailed information that we wanted to share about the proposal for the stained glass in the building, and I think Richard Diego is going to present that.
My name's Richard Diego. Oh,
Is the appendix not? There it is. Okay, great. Thank you.
my name's Richard Diego. I'm with Orange Management and the ownership group, and I'm helping Brian coordinate the stained glass proposal with the contractors and stained glass studios that we've been talking with. Yeah, there we go. Start with the first slide which provides a diagram of our methodology for preserving the building stained glass. The intent is to maintain as much stained glass as possible while removing depictions of religious themes, figures, and iconography. First defining characteristic is the attribution. We performed a survey with the previous the preservationists, found 3 Tiffany windows and 3 J.R. Lamb windows within the church. Those we're proposing selling or donating the windows. I'll highlight the locations of those windows when we get to the elevations. Oh, sorry. Is this better? I'll highlight the locations of those windows once we get to the elevations. For the other special windows that don't have attribution, we propose looking at them as on a light by light basis. So in lights that have no religious iconography, we are going to retain the entire light in place. For lights that do contain religious iconography, we're going to review them based on their location on the building. For lights on the primary facade, we have one method for reviewing the window. For lights on the secondary facades, we will be removing the stained glass and donating it. On the primary facades, we would then review the lights with religious iconography on a panel by panel level, maintaining panels without religious iconography and removing panels with religious iconography, and again donating those panels. And now I'll move to the elevations, which show how this manifests itself. So here we have the primary elevation. There are no Tiffany or J.R. Lamb windows on the primary elevation. Windows type 1 and type 2 show windows where we examined the windows on a panel by panel basis and retained panels in both the rose windows and the lancet windows for the type 1 windows. For the type 1 windows, we moved one of those panels, which I'll show in more detail on an upcoming slide. And all of the stained glass in the tower is to be restored and retained in place. And none of that stained glass included religious themes or iconography. Here's the south facade. Again, on the tower, we're retaining all of the existing stained glass in place. The same for the large rose window, the type 12 window. The windows 5A and 5B are examples where we reviewed them on a light by light basis. We were retaining all of the stained glass in the arched areas of the lancet windows and removing the stained glass from the lower light. The windows 6A through 6E, 2 of these windows are Tiffany windows, 6A and 6E, and the remaining windows, again, are reviewed on a light by light basis. They contained religious iconography, so they were removed and replaced with clear glass. Here we have the north facade, similar to the south facade. The window, I'll start with the window 11A, which is also a Tiffany window. So that glass will be removed and donated or sold, along with 8A. That is also a Tiffany window. The transept windows, we are adding some limited additional stained glass in the arched areas to complement the retained stained glass rose windows, which are shown in green or in the image. And like the 10A and 10B, similar to the 5A and 5B windows, are reviewed on a light-by-light basis, and we're retaining all the stained glass in the arched area and removing it in the lancets. The apse contains 3 windows with stained glass. The 3 windows to the left are special windows that don't contain stained glass. They will be replaced in kind. They're not part of this presentation, but the windows 7A and 7B Windows 7A, 7B, and 7C are all made by J.R. Lamb Studios, and the opening of 7C, they'll all be removed and sold, and the opening of 7C will be closed by the connector piece that Brian showed. And 7A and 7B are to be replaced with clear glass. Here's an inventory of all of the windows. We have individual slides for each window in the upcoming portion of the presentation. So type 1 windows 1A through 1E are all examined. These are on the primary facade, and they're all examined on a panel-by-panel basis. We retained the stained glass in the arch of the lancet and moved the commemorative panel from the bottom of the windows to be up below that. The next slide will detail how this is done. And here we're proposing removing the commemorative plaque on the panel F in this case, and replacing it with or exposing the clear glass behind it. The plaque is an applique to the glass. Similar to 1A, we are retaining the stained glass on the petals of the rose windows, introducing a slight border in stained glass to connect them, and removing the stained glass from the lancets. And this is the primary light and air. The lancet windows are the primary light and air area for the living areas of Unit 7, which you'll see in the plans. And all stone tracery is to be retained on this window. So these are the upper tower windows, 3A and 3B. Plan on restoring and retaining all of the stained glass in place. Here's an image of the current condition of these windows. Similar to type 3, type 4 are all being retained in place.
Yeah, maybe if you could focus on the, I know you're really focusing on the Tiffany and the Lamb windows, and maybe if you could just show pictures of those so we can understand what those look like.
So these are the first set of Tiffany windows. These are the outer windows on transept, south transept windows. It's, just
Okay.
let me know when you want me to jump to the next.
Yeah, so this is one of the Tiffany windows, and so the proposal is to remove it and to try to donate it, correct? And replace with clear glass.
Correct.
Okay, and then the next ones?
And these are the apps JR Lamb windows. And this is a large Tiffany window on the north transept.
And the Tiffany and the Lamb windows are on the side and rear. They're-
Correct.
Right, not on the street-facing facades.
Correct.
And can you just explain how you're doing, so you're doing, where you do replace them, you're putting in a metal framed window?
So on these windows on the transept, in all locations, we're proposing insulating the windows. So proposing a triple glazed an IGU unit with the stained glass behind it. And in this location, we're proposing to keep the aluminum frame. In some of the windows with more visibility, still on the side facades. For instance, this window, we're proposing a system with an aluminum window, a similar aluminum window with wood cladding on both the interior and exterior of the.
Okay, so the portion of the stained glass to be retained is going to be taken out and installed into a new window assembly.
And all of the existing frames are in various states of decay, which was communicated in the previous application and by our preservations.
All right.
And then, it's final. This is the.
So I think we have a sense of it. It's to remove the iconographic imagery and to remove some additional stained glass to allow for just the legal light and air, replacing everything with aluminum windows so that they can be double glazed, and where you are preserving stained glass and reinserting that into the assembly.
Correct.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? All right, and is that the conclusion of the presentation?
Yeah,
Can we move the questions? Okay. Great, thank you. All right, commissioners, do we have questions? Yes, Commissioner Jefferson.
On the Hall Street side, the units are townhouse units, they're vertical in disposition. In the church, how are the units disposed? Are they horizontal? Are they vertical? Where are the floor lines in relationship to the windows?
So I can bring up the floor plans. We have those all in here. It was a long presentation, so they asked us to put it in an appendix. But the church is going to be divided into 11 dwelling units. Most of them are multi-level units. And we've positioned the floor plates such that we're avoiding any of the historic windows. So we're pulling back floor slabs such that, oops, sorry, here we go. All right. So you can see that the Hall Street side is 4 townhouses. We have a core in the center, and then each floor has a unique layout depending on where we could get our available light and how we could get viable bedrooms and dimensions. So, but most of them are duplex units. And again, our section was showing that we're trying to pull away from any of the larger decorative windows such that we're not subdividing them in a way that will be visible from the exterior of the building.
Okay, Commissioner Ginsburg.
So this isn't directly under what we're looking at today, but I want to raise an issue. The townhouses don't seem to meet accessibility requirements. How are you dealing with that?
Yeah, so we've received a ruling on this. So the townhouses are a combination of 1 and 2 family dwellings. The 2 family dwelling townhouses are providing at the lowest level an ADA accessible unit with all essential features, right? Townhouse number 1 is actually a a single family, but again, we're providing on the ground floor a kitchen, a bathroom, and a sleeping accommodation. So we're able to comply with the lowest level without introducing an elevator.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioner Wilder?
Yeah, a couple minor questions, I guess. Have you, what is your approach in terms of signage on the townhouses specifically? But I also didn't see, I saw the address on the other side, but
Yeah.
not on Hall Street.
So I'm going to go back to the front elevation. So we're going to retain the original historic signage on the building, which we just found to be a nice element. We'll have to do house numbers. It's not being shown here, but I'm imagining something we'd do probably in the glass. We'd paint house numbers into the glass at the openings.
Okay.
And we can add that to the presentation.
Okay. What is your zoning? What is your open space requirement, and what do you have?
Yeah. So I don't have that number in front of me right now, but we're able to comply with the open space requirement. Yeah, we're not requesting a modification of that at all. It's all as of right.
And on the doors on Washington, yeah, where you replaced it, well, not replaced, but you added the glass. How do you plan on those functioning as people living in those units? Like, are they opening them for air, or what do you?
Yeah, so they would be operable, right? So that people could open them. There are fences, so it's not as if someone from the street would be walking in onto that, and we're proposing some shrubbery there. But the notion is that the doors would function almost like shutters.
Shutters.
Yeah, exactly. We were basically trying to find a way to preserve those elements, but still make it flexible for a dwelling unit. And then the introduction of the glass above actually takes a lot of the burden off of that. So those rooms will have a lot of light.
And are you keeping the existing doors that are there?
Yes, so we would restore them. Yeah, and the hardware.
And they'll be operable.
They'll be operable, just like they are now, yeah.
All right, Vice Chair Bland?
Quickly, how many total units?
So there's 11 dwelling units in the church, and there's 4 townhouses. Of those 4 townhouses, 3 of them are 2 families, so that's 6 dwelling units, and a 7th there, so 18 total.
Other questions? Yes, Commissioner Mann.
Could you speak to any restoration work that's being proposed as well, please?
Sure. It's not my expertise, so I'm going to explain a little bit. We had a historic preservationist as a consultant on the project. Unfortunately, she's moving, so we're in the process of bringing someone new on board. Caroline Schweyer, I think you guys may know her. She's had some history with landmarks. Caroline, as part of one of the previous developments, had received a series of permits for doing exterior brick pointing, and that was all approved and permitted, and that work was completed. So the exterior of the building on the brick side is entirely repointed. The stone is in good shape. It needs to probably be cleaned and repointed, but that has not been done yet, so there'll be some work done just to stabilize that. I believe that the Hall Street side pointing has not been done yet, so that will be done.
I have one more.
Go ahead.
Suspect there are other questions about the stained glass, but I wanted to ask if you could speak to the rationale behind the decision making. There was a careful mapping of the decisions that had been made, but I was wondering if you could speak to energy, marketing, light and air, what is the rationale for all of these, variety, a whole matrix of decision making relative to the different lights?
Sure. So do you want me to, I can comment. So, I mean, we've been working with a broker, and she was very clear that the hardest part with trying to rent or sell these types of units is the lack of light. And so she was really pushing hard for us to remove as much of the stained glass as would be viable. I think as the ethos of what we put together was that, the famous Maker stained glass we wanted to keep together. We didn't want to cut that up. And so those were removed together such that they'd be maintained in their full integrity and be able to be donated. And then we were strategic about going to all other locations and only removing the religious iconography. And that was sort of our intent there, with the goal of, again, insulated glass for sound and for thermal reasons, and then mostly just trying to get a lot of daylight in here. So, where there's abstract tracery, I think everyone, on our side, ownership side, they love the stained glass. They're trying to keep as much of it as possible, but they also need to have, viable units.
All right, other questions? Commissioner Jefferson.
In terms of the material concept of the building, you're saying that all add elements to the composition are metal. Is that correct?
All the added elements, is that what you said? Yeah, metal and glass, that's right. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, so it's the patinated zinc and then glass.
Any other questions? All right, we're going to move to public testimony. We'll come back to you afterwards and may have more questions. So is there anyone in the room to speak on this item? Noting that there isn't, I will turn it over to Stephen Thompson to see if we have any remote participants.
Those joining us via Zoom who wish to offer testimony, please use the raise hand function, after which you will be promoted to panelist. We request you to unmute yourself, state your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. Our first speaker will be Kaylee Johnson.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Kaylee Johnson with the Historic Districts Council. HTC is thrilled with the adaptive reuse of this church building, especially given the fate of so many historic churches that have been lost or at risk. We find this proposal to be largely appropriate, but we believe that a few details could be refined. The addition that connects the church to the school building seems unnecessary, but we note that the lack of visibility from the public way makes it more acceptable. We are curious how the applicant plans to donate the Tiffany and Lamb windows and wonder if they can be used on site somewhere. We also find the proposed entry door to be industrial looking and disharmonious with the neo-Gothic style of the church building. Thank you.
Our next speaker is John Graham.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. John Graham for the Victorian Society in New York. The Victorian Society will be happy to see this fine church, abandoned for 10 years, stabilized and utilized. The additions to the church and the school are largely obscured from public view and seem to us reasonable and appropriate as a way to preserve and reuse these significant buildings. However, we have several questions and concerns. The note on board 39 states that the removed stained glass panels with religious iconography will be donated or sold. These include 8 windows by Tiffany Studios and 3 by J.R. Lamb Studios, all with multiple lights. The specific program for disposition of these protected windows should be clarified, with the Commission's approval required. We think some of these windows should remain on site in common areas, again, with the Commission's approval for their long-term protection. The effect of the new aluminum frames and exterior windows on the appearance of the stained glass windows to remain in place needs to be shown, and the frame details and finishes specified. And the removal of decorative wood, Gothic framing from some windows to be replaced by aluminum framing with little detail is not appropriate. Replacement shingles for the slate roof should be real slate. This is especially important at the highly visible tower. Perhaps salvaged historic shingles would be sufficient to clad the tower. Certainly, detailed photographs of the original roofing and samples of real and synthetic slates need to be provided so a proper assessment can be made. On board 15, there's a note that the 2 pairs of historic wood doors on the Washington Street facade are to be placed in an open position, are to be secured in an open position. Doors left open are impacted by the weather much more than closed doors. How will these doors be preserved when subject to soaking by rain and snow? On board 20, there's a note, gable crosses to be removed. We believe this to be a misguided change. We can understand removing windows with religious iconography, which would be in individual apartments, but the gable crosses are on the public street facades on a building obviously designed as a church. They are part of the streetscape. These exterior crosses should be retained. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Anyone else joining us via Zoom who wishes to speak, please use the raise hand function. Our next speaker will be Andrew Richard.
Greetings. My name is Andrew Bradfield. I'm with the development team. I wanted to preemptively answer some of the questions that the rest of the team may have.
I'm sorry, we're in the public testimony portion of the hearing, and so we
Okay.
can.
Yeah, we'll bring you back after the testimony.
Okay, great. Sorry.
Okay, I do not see anyone else on Zoom who wishes to testify on this application, so I'll note for the record that Brooklyn Community Board 2 recommends approval on the condition that the applicant make the materiality of the additions more consistent with the existing buildings and lower the height of the proposed 6-foot metal contemporary fences on the Parish House townhouse terraces or angle them to eliminate visibility from Hall Street. I'll also note for the record that Citizens for Responsible Neighborhood Planning of Clinton Hill and Fort Greene recommends approval. Society for Clinton Hill recommends approval as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bradford. We're now going to turn to you and your architects to see if you'd like to respond to any of the testimony. So why don't you go ahead now?
Just an initial comment. As noted, we did modify the fences per the request of the community board, and we were actually, we think it was an improvement, and we modified the materiality to come up with the patented zinc, which again, we feel like is going to be a little bit more, it's going to be a weathering product, which hopefully is more appropriate.
All right, anyone else? Mr. Bradford, did you want to speak at this time?
I don't see him logged into the Zoom anymore. Oh, sorry, Andrew Bradfield. I'll be promoting you to panelist.
My apologies. I'm on a previously scheduled trip out of New York City. I just wanted to preemptively respond before the rest of my team has an ability to respond to some of the questions. The main principle driving all of our design decisions here has been making sure that we can have a viable project, and that is driven really by the background of the previous development teams that have both resulted in not just unsuccessful, but both ended up in bankruptcy, both previous developers. That is a fearful prospect for us, and we have really looked for every manner of appropriate intervention that would really avoid any impact on public view corridors, but would provide the ability to provide a viability perspective in the aspect of every one of the individual apartments. And as mentioned by Brian, our architect, the perspective from our marketing team is that light is the critical factor here in an old building with relatively deep apartments. So that has been a driving factor in making sure that the openings are, when possible to retain stained glass, we do, but when there's a religious iconography that is viewed as potentially prejudicial for prospective buyers, we've really needed to stick with the standard principle of avoiding the religious elements. So I will hand it back to my team, who's probably in a better shape to respond to things.
All right, thank you.
I can answer the questions about the donation or sale of the Tiffany or J.R. Lamb windows. We've spoken with brokers and auction houses, who have found it very difficult to commence their process before we know what we can do. So the exact process, whoever the broker is probably going to be responsible for removing the windows, protecting the windows, storing the windows, and finding buyers, and they are loath to begin that process without knowing that it's approved and the parameters of who they can sell to or where the windows can go.
Okay, so they're not being donated, they're being sold. Is that either or? Okay. Commissioner
Wanna
Goldblum?
keep
Oh,
our request open.
got it. Okay. Commissioner Goldblum?
A few people mentioned the idea of keeping them on site and located elsewhere within the building. Did you consider that at all?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was actually our primary agenda. We really wanted to do that. The challenge, especially with the Lamb and the Tiffany, is that some of them are, it's like 18 feet high. And so there's very limited places where we could introduce the full element. We do have areas off of the common hallways, for example, that we can utilize smaller portions of windows. I think we wouldn't probably do the Tiffany or the Lamb because it would feel like a bit like desecrating them to cut those up. So we have every intention of trying to do it where we can. Unfortunately, the windows that we would love to put inside, we just can't find a volume that will accommodate those that isn't a private apartment presently.
Thanks.
And the
Yes.
majority of them have overtly religious themes that marketing did not think was viable for common spaces.
Good. Okay. Any other questions? Any final questions? All right. Not seeing any final questions, I think we'll move to our discussion. So Commissioner Ekwembe, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Master, would you second that motion?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So the hearing is closed and we're looking at this adaptive use of this church and other parish hall building. And the commission has a long history of approving changes to accommodate new uses in former religious structures, including a prior approval at this particular site. And, excuse me. The commission has approved things that are similar to what we're looking at now, including inverted dormers and skylights and additions at the back and at the roof, as well as modifying windows and doors and creating new window openings to ensure the legal light and air is there. The commission has also looked very carefully at plans for stained glass and leaded glass, and where there is religious iconographic imagery, the commission has approved the removal of those portions of windows, recognizing that they often don't suit the new need and sometimes are in conflict with the new use, And so that is something we've done before. We've also seen the replacement of wood framing with aluminum and inserting the stained glass within new frames, and replacing stained glass with clear glass to achieve light and air within the tracery and framework of the windows. So many aspects of this application are really consistent with the kinds of changes the commission approves. Of course, every case is different and every site is different. So each set of conditions is unique here, and we will look at each aspect. So as we go through it, I just want to remind everyone we'll be talking about the creation of window openings and inverted dormers, the replacement of windows, and that both in stained glass as well as other stained glass to be retained and put into new window frames, and the construction of the courtyard and side additions, and the demolition of portion of the buildings to create new light and air, and of course the mechanical equipment at the end. So we'll begin that discussion. Vice Chair Bland, would you start this one?
I'd be happy to. And if you will, allow me, as I sail off into the sunset, a little bit of a valedictory. commentary, and I thought this was the perfect project to make these comments that I now will make. One, I want to suggest to the commission, but to the city really, that the most difficult aspect that the commission will face, has faced, is facing immediately now, and will face for the foreseeable future, I think, is this issue of religious architecture in the city, in a city which, like it or not, has decreasing needs for these extraordinary, extraordinary buildings, many of which, but not all of which, are landmarked. So this is a challenge which the city itself has to deal with, but the Landmarks Commission will certainly be at the center of it, and very soon, very prominently, as we all know, past my time as being on the commission. So I think that, as Chair Carroll has just said, we have had a long history and should continue that history, maybe even being more relaxed sometimes about how we allow change for these buildings to occur in ways that allow it to be adaptively reused, and almost always, but not always, for housing, which I think also is, as we all know, a crying need in the city. In a way like the meatpacking district, I think we all acknowledge allows more freedom. I think in terms of what we might view as appropriate, I think that needs to be continued with religious architecture, and we might not allow certain things in other examples, but on these buildings, I think we really need to be sure that we don't lose them, because they're too important to our city to lose them, and there are too many of them everywhere. Almost every block has some important building that is a problem. Secondly, I want to suggest in a career that now is over 50 years old, myself as a design architect, I've designed many, many, many new buildings from scratch, and many, many, many adaptive reuse buildings. And I just want to acknowledge that for me, the most difficult ones, the ones that challenge your intellect, the ones that challenge your every facet of what you do as a designer, are the adaptive reuse ones. New buildings are great. You know, it's a theme, you do it. There's structural issues. There's all sorts of exciting things, of course, in a new building. But these buildings, to adaptively reuse a building, requires such skill and a conversation with yourself as a designer. Would I do this or would I do that? What's appropriate? It's a very exacting and very difficult thing to pull off, I think, well. And when it's pulled off well, some of the most, I would say, the most exciting architecture exists now, right now, when combining new and old. At least that's my view. And I want to then say that I think what we've just seen in this application by this architect, Brian Ripple, whom I don't know, is a masterclass in how to do it. I think this is really, really, really a significant project. I cannot comment on all of the zoning issues that apparently were not followed in the first two examples that led to bankruptcy. Please don't let that happen, Mr. Andrew Bradfield. We don't want that to happen in this case. So I'm assuming that all of these, you've got Valerie Campbell sitting there with you, so I'm sure that she's helping anything in that regard. But so I can't respond to that. Let's just hope it's all right and that this does proceed. One final, and I'm not talking about all the details. I'm going to let other commissioners talk about it. From my point of view, they're all fine. I want to just say one more thing about the stained glass and about selling, donating, whatever it might be. For 15 years, I was on the vestry of Trinity Church, Wall Street, a rather significant piece of New York City's history. And Trinity recently went through a huge renovation. And instead of purchasing three new organs, both for St. Paul's and for Trinity Church, they were able to purchase existing organs for churches that no longer needed them. So what I'm saying is that perhaps stained glass windows of such significance as these can also find a similar home in an appropriate setting, rather than, and I understand why they can't remain on site. That would be great to be able to do it, but I understand. And you certainly don't want to chop them up in any way. So I'm hoping that maybe there is a real market for that. With that, I'll end my little monologue. And
Thank you, Commissioner Chen.
I couldn't, I think what the Vice Chair just said is just so profound, and what a appropriate note for all his years and decades of service, not only here, but so many other institutions. So I want to personally thank him, and on behalf of the city and all the communities that he served on. What a brilliant career and brilliant. But what he just pointed out is absolutely right on. I mean, think about the time that it took to just create these few units. And I'm looking at churches left and right. I go up to Harlem, I see churches being adapted, they reuse and things like that. And many of them are sitting there vacant and with declining. I still remember fondly the commissioner that was sitting to my left a few years ago. And he said, you know, they have a dwindling membership, and just to repair that massive rooftop was $4 million, just to keep the rooftop. Just the roof. And so this is something, especially for the new commissioners that are coming on board. We've got a serious issue here. I think, you know, that balance, delicate balance, and what Fred pointed out is absolutely where we are aiming for, which is that if you can creatively, really, like this applicant has done, put it to good use and while preserving it, and letting the future generation having the ability to see what was here. And the changing times are dealing with, you know, the unhoused on the street right now that are causing mental issues, that are causing sleeping on the subway issues. I think these are the times we live in. And so I also, in looking at the stained glass, that I think I really encourage the applicant to really find, not just relying on brokers, but to really look at other ways to, you know, for new structures like Trinity has done, you know, for the donation to other, or preserving somewhere that if for the thing. So, but other than that, I think this is appropriate.
Thank you, Commissioner Ginsburg.
I want to second or whatever what Commissioner Bland said, who I've only known for 40 years when he hired me as a young architect. But his points are really good, and I think this is somebody who's dealt with zoning and multiple dwelling law and building code a lot. This is a really, as he said, a masterful job of dealing with all of that and responding, and I think just a great project. The one comment I have, which is a suggestion, is as much as you can, as you develop the lighting, try to have it go down instead of up to encourage dark skies. But I realize that isn't always possible or reasonable, and I just think this is a really great project and look forward to seeing it built.
Thank you, Commissioner Goldblum.
Thank you. Certainly, far be it for me to say one little thing, you know, less about Fred. He's you know, I don't know if this is the moment. This is the Fred moment. Maybe we'll have that later. We all deserve a Fred day, but I'll dive into the messy details a little bit just from my point of view. It's certainly a great project. It's certainly, the MDL's a bear. It's tough. It's very, very tough. And kudos to the team for wrestling it to the ground. In general, the project is fine, I think. I think the general approach is a very appropriate one. But I do have some minor comments that they can work on with staff. First of all, the rooftop courtyard that's shown here, the MDL courtyard at the very top, if it's possible to keep some structure there, so that the volume of the building can be recalled as much as possible within code, to act as a trellis or something, that would be an improvement. I think that the volume of the apps is being kind of consumed at the lower level. And if it were possible to integrate that structural wall within the layout of the apartments, as was done on the upper level, it would be better for the retention of the volume of the building. I think that the number of sconces on Hall Street's a bit much. I would suggest maybe eliminating every other one along the entrances in some way. It just seemed like an awful lot of sconces. I think that the most important comment is related to the windows. I do think it's totally appropriate to remove the iconographically inappropriate windows. But I think that the windows that go back, because this is not really a modernization, dramatic re-aestheticization of the building, I think that the retention of the, adding mullions to the windows, to recall the leaded lines, the reinforcing of the leads, that's how the windows are now perceived by people, both inside and outside. Those horizontal lines and the vertical lines where you have a double arch that meet in the center with a boss. I think that retaining those mullion lines with clear glass for the side windows would be not a significant imposition from a marketing perspective, but would keep the texture of the windows for how the building is viewed, even obliquely. I think that the INI dormers are fine, generally speaking. The staff should help them with detailing the edges for those. I think that John Graham's idea of keeping the slate for the tower is a very, very good idea. The fake slate's fine for everywhere else, but the tower is something where the roof is actually a visible feature for the public. And if the slate roof there is like most slate roofs that I know of, the slate usually will outlast most folks, and it can be salvaged for that purpose. I think that the front windows, where they face the public street, I was a little bit confused. On one drawing, the applicant showed that the two new lancet windows over the doors are going to be done in a leaded glass with a diamond pattern. And then on another drawing, it was shown as just plain clear glass. So I think that the former option is the better option. And I think that approach should be taken for the other windows that are being removed, that the front-facing clear glass windows should be done with the leaded diamond pattern. It's easy to get that nowadays, and for the limited number of windows that face forward, you're getting your icon-free, you're getting your light, but you're keeping some of the texture. Yeah, and I think that I think they can also work with staff on how you deal with those aluminum mullions. I think that there's nobody in the United States that has more experience dealing with aluminum window systems than the LPC staff, and guidance on how to give them some texture and to recall the quality of the wood mullions would be an added benefit at modest cost.
Thank you, Commissioner Jefferson.
I would like to talk about the composition of the whole project and the idea that the added elements to the composition are made of metal, and they're placed in the secondary facade. So in terms of construction, it makes a lot of sense, and it does make the composition hold the composition together. My one issue is the rooftop units on the Hall Street school building. I think it's visible from one side, quite visible. And I think if they took the mass of the wall and extended it up and made that whole, instead of an added roof unit, added another floor, essentially, then you wouldn't see the edge condition, the end condition as much. You would see it as part of a composition.
So
of
to
the
bring
whole
the
thing.
brick up on the side? Okay.
I think that's the only issue that I see where the added material kind of forces itself upon us. I think the details of the entry and the subtlety of some of the forms to try to bring light in, very thoughtful detailing. As a whole, I think the project is just really quite magnificent.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Master.
Yeah, I think this is really an incredible project. Definitely a challenging adaptive reuse that I think the applicant has thought through very carefully. And I think they've done an incredible job. I can find every aspect of this appropriate. I'm not going to go through all the details, but I can find this appropriate. I also wanted to say that Commissioner Bland, I'm really going to miss you. One of the things I look forward to when I come here is your stories and how you share your wisdom, and you have such a generosity of spirit. When I first came on, when I first knew I was coming on, I reached out to you, and you were so generously, you sent me some books so that I could kind of familiarize myself with this. And you have taught me so much, and I'm really going to miss you.
The fastest learner imaginable.
All right, Commissioner Quembe.
I believe that a lot has been said, and I'm in agreement with it, and I find it appropriate.
Okay, Commissioner Mann.
I'd like to begin by thanking Commissioner Bland for sharing his words of wisdom at the beginning, at the opening of the commentary, and for inspiring others with your decades of distinguished public service to follow in your footsteps. Fred, thank you. I'd like to commend the project. I think it's a fantastic adaptive reuse project. These residential conversions, whether they're an idiosyncratic, church building like this or a deep office building, are incredibly challenging due to all the overlapping regulations imposed upon them. And boy, the applicant sure pulled out every single tool in the toolbox to deal with them, from the inverted dormers to the really clever MDL light well. I love that aspect and so forth. So I can certainly support support this project. I do want to say I'm very pleased that the material was changed to the patinated zinc from the aluminum. I was a little concerned when I first saw the renderings before I understood that aspect. The sloped roofs I found also very clever as another tool in the toolkit. I will say, lost the thread when it came to the how the windows would be dealt with and what the decision-making process was. I concur with Fred and Commissioner Bland and other commissioners that natural light is paramount to make this a viable project. But I think perhaps the staff could work with the applicant relative to the plan for the stained glass itself, as well as some of the details of the profiles, muttons, tracery, and so forth, which I personally had a hard time following, but may have been in there. But great project overall. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Commissioner Wilder.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what everyone else has said. Great response to a myriad of challenges and issues. that have already been mentioned, so not much to add. I think it's appropriate.
Okay. All right, so I think we're all in agreement on this one, and I do hope that this project is successful. It would be nice to see these buildings be reused, and it is adaptive reuse is a really important preservation tool, but it is, as Vice Chair Bland said, really critical as we think about religious buildings that have a declining congregations and decreasing need for that use. And so this is something really important that we do, and our role is important. And I want to thank you all for your comments on this. So I think we can go ahead and make a motion to approve this, and we'll ask them to work with the staff to finalize as they develop and finalize their details.
As penalty now, I have to read an incredibly long. I asked to go first and I forgot what it meant at the end. Here we go. Okay. My last time of doing this. The new commissioners, you didn't realize that you have to be a very good public reader. Not a speaker, just a reader. All right, in the matter of 257, 263 Washington Avenue and 230 to 236 Hall Street in the Clinton Hill Historic District. This is an application to demolish sections of the building, construct additions at the rear, side, and roof, alter the roof and facades, relocate, remove, and modify special window glazing and openings, modify and create new window and door openings, alter areaways, construct barrier-free access ramp, and excavate a cellar level. I note that the building style, scale, materials, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Clinton Hill Historic District. I also note that the church sold the property in 2015, and the complex has been without an occupant since that time, that the commission approved a proposal for another scheme for adaptive reuse in 2018, but that development never occurred, that the property has changed ownership 3 times since 2018, and that the condition of the building has deteriorated substantially in recent years. However, I now recommend approval, noting that the proposed work will facilitate the adaptive reuse of this historic church complex as a multi-unit residential apartment building. That the demolition of the roof between the chancel and the steeple will not be visible from any public thoroughfare and will create a light court, allowing the sanctuary to be divided into multiple residences. That the proposed one-story rooftop addition will not overwhelm the parish hall building in terms of its scale, and that the rooftop addition will be set back from the Hall Street, the east facade, and a low-pitched roof will avoid the need for railings and allow for the concealment of sunken mechanical equipment at the rear and solar panels on the surface. That the connector addition at the north lot line between the sanctuary and the parish hall will be minimally visible down the alleyway and will be integrated with the design materials of the rooftop addition. That the patented zinc cladding of the connector block and rooftop addition will have a neutral weathering finish that will complement the existing brick parish and stone church as a modern intervention. That the new and modified window and door openings at the primary and visible secondary facades of the parish house will relate well to the historic fenestration in terms of size, placement, materials, details, and finish. That the new area way railings, new glass and metal doors, and new light fixtures on the Hall Street facade will relate well to the design, scale, and materiality of the parish hall building. That the construction of the one-story glass and metal entrance vestibule addition with a metal awning at the north end of the Washington Avenue facade will provide barrier-free access in the least intrusive manner while leaving a gap to allow the sanctuary side wall and pointed arch-headed windows to remain visible. that the proposed zinc-clad one-story addition at the south lot line connecting the sanctuary with the parish hall will be significantly set back from Washington Avenue and only visible through a narrow alleyway and obscured by new fencing. That the two-story dormer addition to the church will largely be concealed behind the southwest tower with minimal visibility over the primary gable and secondary facade. That the placement of the solid boarded wood transoms over the church's former Washington Avenue entrances with wood-framed glazed transoms with applied lead caming will provide additional light and air into the apartments while recalling a typical feature of neo-Gothic church entrances. That modifying the historic bracket light fixtures into pendant fixtures in front of the transoms will preserve these historic fixtures. That much of the historic slate roof has been replaced or tarred over and the remaining portions are beyond repair, and that the proposed artificial slate shingles will closely recall the historic slates in terms of color, pattern, and size. That the new window and door openings, inverted dormer insertions, and skylights at the roof will either be not visible or minimally visible at an oblique angle from Washington Street. That the removal of crosses on the main tower and at the side gables and careful removal of portions of the stained glass windows featuring religious iconography will facilitate the conversion of the complex from religious to residential use. That modifying the Washington Avenue facade lancet windows to remove the central panels with religious figures for off-site donation or sale, I should say, while relocating the lower non-religious dedicatory panel to the retained arched upper portions of the window will preserve some decorative stained glass at the primary facades of the former church while not interfering with the light, air, window operability of the new apartments. That the proposal involves removing only the stained glass and retaining the historic masonry tracery, replacing the wood mullions and tracery with metal framing, clad and wood to match the appearance of the historic framing. That the creation of most of the new door and window openings of the secondary facades of the church will only require the removal of simple brick masonry. That the existing metal fence to be removed at the areaway is not historic, and the proposed black painted fence is simple in design and lower in height and will be in keeping with fences found throughout the historic district. That other rooftop railings of the additions in the alleyways and at the terraces are simple in design, set back from the front facades, and will not call undue attention to themselves, and that the excavation and related underpinning will be done in compliance with the Department of Buildings regulations under the supervision of a licensed professional engineer to protect the building's facades and adjacent buildings. Also that
they'll work with the staff on the final details.
Work with the staff on the final details of all the foregoing. And what about all this?
That's okay.
Don't read it?
Yep.
Read it. Yeah,
Nope.
read it. Don't read it. Stained glass.
No, they're gonna, because we think we moved removal and the sale or donation. So they'll work with the staff on the details of the new windows and the profiles and dimensions of the framing and the muntin pattern and other details that we discussed in their discussion.
Exactly as I would have said it if I were smarter.
All right, Commissioner Chen, would you second that motion?
Second.
And Mark, will you call the vote?
Chair Carroll.
Aye.
Vice Chair Bland.
Aye.
Commissioner Chen.
Aye.
Commissioner Ginsburg.
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum. Commissioner Ikembe.
Aye.
Commissioner Jefferson.
Aye.
Commissioner Mahan.
Aye.
Commissioner Master.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilder.
Aye.
10 in favor, none opposed, the motion passes.
All right, that's approved. Thank you. And please continue to work with the staff as you develop those details. So we're going to break for lunch now. We'll resume at 1:50. And we'll ask all members of the public to voluntarily exit the Zoom meeting right now so that should you wish to return, you don't have any technical difficulties that might arise if we remove you.